Good morning. At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for January 5, 2023. So welcome to the new year, everyone. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Here.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick here.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Here. All are present. We do have a quorum. Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I personally have one special recognition to make this morning. I would like to recognize and introduce my wife, Jan, who's present this morning, and our daughter, Jamie, and her son, our grandson, Ryan. So thanks, guys, for getting out early and joining us this morning, as this will be my last official meeting as chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. And some would appreciate that very much. Others perhaps less so. But again, thank you for all the years of service to the commission, as well as staff and the county manager's office. Appreciated very much. So with that said, we'll turn to public comment portion of our agenda. If there's anyone present who would like to speak to the commission on an item, would welcome you to the podium if you're speaking in person. And I would remind everyone there is a 2-minute limit. So if you go beyond the 2 minutes, then the chair will be forced to ask you to conclude your remarks. So the clerk will read the first speaker.
Virtually, we have Kim Donaway. Kim Donaway. Kim, if you could.
Hi.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Just unmuted. Thank you. Hi, my name's Kim Donaway, and I am a Mission resident in Johnson County. And I would like to comment on wondering why the North Johnson County Health Department offices in Mission, Kansas have been closed and have been closed for a very long time. And I'll hear things about shortage of labor, so I have a solution. They can move the staff up to the Mission office, close the Olathe one, because number one, I drove down 35 the other day to see about getting a DTP shot and tetanus update. And it was treacherous going down 35 and picking up 119th. And then driving to a Johnson County government campus where it's out in the middle of nowhere. You cannot bicycle to it. You cannot walk to it. There's no bus service to it. And so I want to know how come the north area of the county is being discriminated against when you can walk to that health department, you can ride a bicycle to it, and there's bus service. Now, when they talk about lack of labor, great, shut the Olathe one down, bring them up to Mission. Number two, when I walked out after getting my shot, when I see public servants, city and employees playing on their personal cell phones instead of working, I take issue with that because that's coming out of my pocket, that's coming out of your pocket and the rest of the residents. And when they're talking about lack of labor, I don't buy into it. I work for myself, have for over 40 years, so there's a discrepancy. And I would like to see the Mission offices reopened because I've been having that discussion every day, everywhere I go. Because I'll see a lot of people per day and I start bringing it up and they weren't even aware that Mission has been shut down for so long. But when you have a place that's available, that's being paid for, where a bus will go to it, you can ride a bicycle and you can walk to it. I want to know when it's going to be opened. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure that staff or others will be in contact with you. Next speaker.
Now we have Debbie Detmer. Debbie Detmer.
Hi, I am Debbie Detmer, a retired registered nurse and a grandmother of 8 in Shawnee. Monday Night Football broadcast live to over 13 million viewers. Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin 24, had a sudden and unexpected heart attack and dramatically collapsed on the field during the game. They thought it was an arrhythmia event from the hit of the play. But if that was true, after being brought back to life on the field and the starting of the heart would have solved the situation. But in fact, they had to resuscitate again at the hospital. So the investigation of his booster shot of December 26 has to be investigated. The possibility of a blood clot that broke off is real. 1,598 athletes have suffered cardiac arrest, over 1,000 with deadly outcomes since the vaccinations. The journal Vaccine published a September study using the WHO list of adverse effects and the Moderna and Pfizer data. They found high level of adverse effects compared with the jab takers compared to the placebo group. In other words, the data showed that Moderna lowered the chance of COVID hospitalizations by a minus 6.4 per 10,000, but increased the risk of serious adverse effects by a plus 15.1 per 10,000. Therefore, vaccines' net risk of bad outcomes increased by a plus 8.7 per 10,000 by taking the Moderna shot. Pfizer was nearly the same. The data showed Pfizer lowered the chance of COVID hospitalizations by a minus 2.3 per 10,000, but increased the risk of serious adverse effects by a plus 10.1 per 10,000. Therefore, vaccines' net risk of a bad outcome increased by a plus 7.8 per 10,000 by taking the Pfizer shot. In other words, they conducted from the Pfizer and
I'm sorry,
outcomes
Ms.
of the pandemic response from this board and the increased mental issues that we have, and we are watching the adverse effects of these vaccines from this board is still pushing for. How will you deal with this?
Okay, thank you very much. Next speaker.
Now we have Cassie Woolworth. Cassie Woolworth.
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you all for coming today. Happy 2023. Thank God we're here. 3 years ago, we didn't know there was a epidemic coming, an epidemic of COVID. 2 years ago, we didn't know there'd be a shot to prevent it. And today, I'm here not to tell you that COVID saved 3 million Americans. COVID shots saved 3 million Americans. That is now a study done. 3 million to date have been saved by COVID and this clot shot, as I'm sure Ben will say. So I'm not going to talk about election results because apparently they're good this year. And I'm not going to talk about election results from the past 2 years because nobody put the money up for an audit that won. So I'm guessing all the elections are good. And I'm not going to talk about the clot shot because, again, 3 million people have been saved. And it's 2 years later, and I'm on shot 4. And let me tell you, I'd rather be immunized than in the hospital or dead. What I am going to say today is thank you. Thank you to Ed Eilert. Thank you for your 44 years of service. Thank you for doing that for the public, for Johnson County, for Olathe, for my schools. Thank you for putting yourself out there every single year to make our community better, to try to push forward into this new millennium. Good health, good favor, and good neighbors. I want to thank Ed Eilert for his 44-year career in public service. I don't know anybody else here who would volunteer for that, but we'll see. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Now in person, we have Ben Hobart. Ben Hobart.
Ben Hobart, Westwood Hills. Congratulations to Chairman Eilert on a long tenure of public service. Chairman Eilert, your commitment and service deserve our praise and thanks. My substantive comments relate to this board's strong recommendation of April 29, 2021, that all eligible Johnson Countyans should get the clot shots. The resolution has not been withdrawn or modified and remains in force. The growing body of evidence of harm from the clot shots is of grave concern. A German autopsy study published November 27 in the Clinical Research and Cardiology Journal found 5 cases where a likely or possible causal relationship was found to the clot shots. All died within a week of one of the clot shots. Importantly, all 5 corpses also had negative PCR tests for the COVID virus. The doctors stated arrhythmic failure, either by cardiac arrest or by ventricular fibrillation, has to be assumed as the mechanism leading to the patient's death. It should be noted that the CDC published a report in the December 16 Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report that there is no data on clot shot bivalent booster efficacy against new variants which are now circulating. Consider that the Cleveland Clinic, a medical institution based in Ohio with a national reputation, did a survey of its 50,000 employees with respect to the bivalent boosters from September 12 to December 12. 87% had previously injected with a first shot, 83% a second, 50% a booster, but only 21% got the bivalent clot shot. Most importantly, the study found that the more shots an employee was injected with, the more likely they would be infected with COVID. When 79% of medical professionals do not opt for an injection, it has to give you pause. Moreover, given other events, if I were an athlete at any level and had been injected with the clot shots, I would get a troponin test and a D-dimer test before strenuous activities. Please take this to heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Vicki Klein. Vicki Klein.
Good morning, Vicki Klein, Overland Park. It has been offered for the public to engage in the Kansas Highly Infectious Disease and Pandemic Plan version 3.0, and the public is allowed to write and engage in the 81-page document from December 9th, when everyone was on holiday mode, to January 9th. And I am asking the board to have this put out another month so people can engage, and please have the news. Let us know that we can engage. I question so-called decisions from mounds of people emailing without any proof when people talk about getting tons of emails. However, I would like to also know from this why the University under Nebraska Medical Center, UMC, deserves as a multi-state regional treatment for the background of this. And also they talk about the CDC, that is one of the key things that they're going to be using. Because of time, I'm going to quote from a article by Reason on the CDC. The CDC's most notorious breakdown came early on when it was developing testing system and to detect COVID-19. A former Food and Drug Administration director, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, documents in a scathing new book, Uncontrolled Spread. The agency made multiple critical errors all along the way. The test kit turned out to was contaminated. The part that was contaminated was the third component the CDC had decided to add at the last minute. What's more, the contamination happened at least in part because the CDC had decided to produce the test in-house at a lab not suited for the project rather than contact a private firm and experience more rigorous quality controls. The contamination was not discovered until the CDC sent the batch kits to the other labs, and even as those labs increasingly reported that the system was producing obviously unreliable results, the CDC accordingly Gottlieb continued to insist the communication with the White House and the Food and Drug Administration. The agency eventually admitted there was a problem, but it insisted on a slow and painstaking process of updating the bad kits themselves, actively blocking private labs from taking over, so that not only did the agency botch the process, but it blocked others from stepping in to fix the errors. So I am asking for you guys to consider that. And good luck, Chairman Eiler. Good luck.
Chairman, now we have some special speakers that have requested to speak.
All right. Are those speakers present?
They're coming in.
Yes, they will be. At this time, we will call Lynn Mitchelson. Lynn Mitchelson.
Mr. Mitchelson, good to see you.
Nice to see you, and thank you for your service. It's wonderful to be here. Good morning. I'm honored and very grateful for this opportunity to say thank you to Ed for 44 years of stellar service to our county and our community. He set a very high standard of service leadership. In 1990, I served as chairman of the Overland Park Chamber. Economic development was booming as it is now along College Boulevard in 1990. Corporate Woods was building out. The community college was getting a national reputation. And the KU Region Center had just opened on Quivira, just south of the college. What we now celebrate, one of the most important developments of 1990, perhaps, was the Sprint campus. It was not without controversy. Sprint was negotiating for tax abatement. I'm sure you remember this, Ed, and tax abatement was something that Overland Park had never had to concede to, even though the surrounding communities had. So we had a chamber meeting with the past chairman, and we had 3 or 4 very important leaders in Johnson County who were skeptical about tax abatement. Ed took a leadership role. What we now celebrate is the T-Mobile headquarters campus, which includes 200 acres, 3.9 million square feet of office space, was in doubt. As mayor, Ed was CEO of a city that had a history of denying tax abatement. We held a meeting of the chairman, past chairman of the Overland Park Chamber, and we, over time, convinced those that were skeptical to support it. It got the unanimous endorsement of the Overland Park Chamber and ultimately the City Council, and what you see today is a result of those events back in 1990. Ed did not resort to what is more authoritative style of leadership we see on a national and federal level today. He was very balanced, and he was very understanding, and he listened to everybody that had some objection to the college.
Well, Lynn, thank you very much for those kind comments.
Thank you for this
Try to
opportunity.
be consistent with all of our public speakers, and your time is up.
All right, I got it. I feel the hook.
Thank you very much.
Now we have Samuel Turner. Samuel Turner.
Thank you. Mrs. Eilert, thank you so much for the 22 good years that you've given me here. He's finally made it home. As you know, my wife went through a lot of days by herself and nights by herself. So I know how important it is, what you've done. And the times that I've interacted with you, you've been very gracious. Ed, now you know, it's very difficult. I'm a former lawyer myself, so it's difficult for me to cut my words short. In a way, it's good that I've got a timer on me, because then if I miss something, I can blame it on time. But one of the things that I remember when I was recruited here 22 years ago to head up Shawnee Mission Medical Center was how welcome you made me feel. And no matter how small the event was, or how, you would be there for me and making a presence, and it really made me feel special and welcome to the Johnson County community. You have kept me involved with the community after my retirement, and I appreciate that. I appreciate and I hope I'm not letting any cat out the bag, but even the personal text messages that you've sent me at times have been very, very special. Your leadership has been one of servant leadership. That's been evidenced by the fact that you have been personally involved outside of your official duties in this community. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Now we have Fred Logan. Fred Logan.
Fred, I ran into you a while ago. I wondered what you were doing here.
I can honestly say it's the only time I flatly lied to you. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, public, I'm honored to be here today to speak to Ed and to speak about Ed. 42 years ago, I was a much younger guy wanting to get involved in Johnson County public service and politics, and I was really intrigued by this young leader over in Overland Park named Ed Eilert. So 42 years ago, I went over and collected a bunch of yard signs and went around and put up about 40 or 50 yard signs for Ed Eilert. And here's what I would say. I learned then that he cared about great public service, and he has never, ever gone away from that. It's always been a commitment to the very best public service. That never changed. He was quietly relentless for the public good. Then, 42, 44 years ago, and consistently, and now. He always has been respectful, and he always has tried to do what is right. This never changed. He showed compassion for his family, who have been so wonderful and supportive, for our citizens in Johnson County, and for good government. He never, ever veered from that. He never grew weary. Ed was always the best of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Stephen F. Rose. Stephen F. Rose.
Morning, Steve.
Good morning, Chairman. In my allotted 2 minutes, I would like to focus on one magnificent achievement of Chairman Ed Eilert that speaks for all his decades of achievements as a public official in Johnson County. Our new Johnson County Courthouse, which should be appropriately named, in my opinion, the Edwin Eilert Johnson County Courthouse, was an edifice built in the 1950s without an appropriate coroner's facility and would likely still be trying to function today in a backward image for one of the nation's most progressive counties. If it weren't for Ed Eilert's vision and passion, as well as his leadership with District Attorney Steve Howe, it would still likely be a relic from another era. Probably a vast majority of the county citizens outside of the Olathe and surrounding area never even saw the old facility, having no need to visit there, and could care less about the way it looked or functioned. The judges, staff, and other officials knew how outmoded it was and and complained about it constantly. But discussions of its needed upgrades or total replacement went nowhere for years and years. Its eventual approximate $200 million price tag to bring it up to Johnson County quality just did not excite the public, nor did the idea of a possible modest temporary sales tax needed to fund it. So it sat there fighting apathy and inertia until Eilert began to make the case we needed to start anew to take us to the future. So an orphan in Johnson County, no leadership coalesced around a brand new courthouse. Not even $100,000 was raised to run a countywide campaign to win an election to replace the courthouse. Eilert was passionate, however, and he and Howe alone formed the entire campaign committee, helped raise the meager campaign funds, and together they went out and campaigned pretty much just the two of them, speaking to countless Rotary clubs and other organizations, some with only 5 people in attendance.
Steve, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you to conclude if you could.
It took passion, vision, leadership, persistence, tireless effort, and the name Ed Eilert to give to the community a guarantee that there would be a magnificent victory and with little fanfare, so typical of the bold leadership of the soft-spoken visionary Ed Eilert. Thank you very much for addressing.
Thank you, Steve.
Now we have Carol Lehman. Carol Lehman.
Commissioners, Mayor, Commissioner, Chairman, I've known you as all three, and I've respected you in each of your roles. More than once, back when I was mayor, I'd ask myself, what would Ed do? And more than once, I've asked you for your advice, which you have always freely given. As a commissioner, I always felt your decisions were made in the best interest of all Johnson Countyans. And as chairman, your dedication to delivering a top-notch service to your constituents has never wavered. I now serve on the Airport Commission, and I know firsthand how much the commission appreciates your understanding of our issues, your interest in our new ventures, and your support during challenging times. It has been said that anyone can steer a ship when the water is calm, but you are not anyone. You have steered Johnson County through some very rough waters. Chairman, I thank you for your leadership, your vision, and your insight. Be proud of the legacy you are leaving, and best wishes on an enjoyable retirement.
Mayor, thank you.
Now I have John Douglas. John Douglas.
Members of the commission, thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. For 41 years, I was a police officer with the Overland Park Police Department, the last 19 and a half of which I was the chief of police. And that afforded me a very unique opportunity to work with Councilman Eilert, Mayor Eilert, Committeeman Eilert, just about everything that he's done up to chair. And we worked through things in a way that gave me the opportunity to see the mettle of this man. And I can tell you firsthand exactly what kind of person he is. He never once did anything that I know of for self-aggrandizement. Every decision he made was for the benefit of the community. He cared about public safety. He supported public safety, and he demanded that Overland Park be one of the most safe cities in the United States, and it is. And his legacy carries on through the work that's going on even till today, and well for many, many years to come. I never once saw him with an agenda other than the public good, ever. He was driven by two things. Is it right? And if it's right, is it in the public interest? And if those two things were met, we marched forward. And if it wasn't, we worked on it till they were. I'd also like to thank his wife and his family, because as a former public servant, I know the toll it takes. And for Jan and his family, there were sacrifices. And those should be appreciated. So, Mayor, thank you so very, very much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Now I have Deb Settle. Deb Settle.
Good morning, Chairman. It is an honor to be here today. I want to personally thank you for all of the hours that you and Mrs. Eilert put into coming and being a participant in all of the different city and chamber things that go on to help businesses continue to grow. And another thing that is so important for me to say today is how much I appreciate you always being a pro-advocate leader for our businesses. You had to make some really tough decisions throughout your 44 years, and you made those to help keep our businesses healthy, and I thank you for that. And my wish for you and for Mrs. Eilert is all of your tomorrows, I hope you realize just how much of a difference that you've made in Johnson County people's lives that have lived here and continue to live here today. You've made quite an impact. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we have Robert Rignier. Robert Rignier.
Chairman Eilert and the commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to thank Ed for his 40 years of public service to Johnson County and the city of Overland Park. It so happened that his tenure, we're not that different in age, I mean his tenure and my tenure in my business career overlapped each other, and I got to see firsthand the type of environment that he helped create in Johnson County and Overland Park. And I believe that, that benefited my business as it did every other business in Johnson County. And I just two things I want to comment on. I was trying to think of a word that I would, ascribe to Ed, and I used the term progressive. And progressive, when you look in the dictionary, it's either a noun or an adjective. And it's not the noun I'm talking about, it's the adjective. I mean, it's talking about making progress, developing new ideas, finding opportunities, moving forward, advocating for good causes, and the ability to coalesce people around a common goal. And all of these things Ed accomplished, with the, in the environment of fiscal responsibility, honesty, transparency, and practicality. And then the second thing, and I look at this for a lot of people when, you see people finishing up their careers or their public service, it's the but-for test. How is Johnson County different as a result of Ed Eilert being in the positions and having the authority that he had over this last 40 years? And I think that we can all look back and say it is substantially better than what he inherited when he first started. And I personally am very thankful for Ed for his public service and what he's done to improve the environment. And it's not just roads and bridges and buildings. It's the environment, it's the personnel, it's all of the other things that created the environment and the momentum that we have in Johnson County. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Bob.
Now we have Patty Markley. Patty Markley. Okay, thank you. Now we have Greg Musel. Greg Musel.
Mr. Musel, good to see you.
Thank you. I'm here recognizing that Linda Sater is the only thing I missed from the Charter Commission. Jan and Ed and members of the commission, I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak today and thank Ed for his service to Overland Park, to Johnson County, and frankly the state of Kansas. My chosen hometown is far better because of your service. And I came up, we found two quotes that I think epitomize how I would describe Ed Eilert to others. The first is from George Bernard Shaw. You see things and say, why? But I dream things that never were, and I say, why not? Ed, your vision for this community was long and wise, and you did it. You accomplished that vision. Second, from an unknown author, if you accept the call to leadership, you must be willing to be misunderstood, criticized, opposed, accused, and even rejected. That was true in the 1970s when you first answered the call to lead, and it is even truer today. Ed, thank you for your vision and your courage. My family and all families in Johnson County are better for it. Thank you.
Well, Greg, thank you very much. And I think back often to the time that we served together on the Overland Park City Council, and your continued leadership is important also. Thank you.
Now we have Tom Robinette. Tom Robinette.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm honored to be here. I'd like to start by reminding you the last time I was here, I had a lot of good things to say about a then county manager. You stopped me and told me my time was up, so I'll try not to let that happen today. I'll really don't need to repeat all the things that have been said already and that will be said, all the thank yous, the compliments. They can say them much better than I could. I'll just say that I agree with them. I'll second everything that has been said. You've dedicated many years to and made a lot of sacrifices for Overland Park and Johnson County and in fact our whole community, and we're better off for it. It's a better place, a more vibrant place now than when you started. I trust that you and Jan are going to enjoy a lot of good times, well-earned and well-deserved relaxation in the coming years in your retirement. Finally, as you know, there are a lot of us used-to-bes and former somethings in a Saturday morning golf group of which, as I recall, you were an original member. Unfortunately, as the demands on your time increased and kept increasing, you had the opportunity to spend, or you didn't have the opportunity to enjoy the camaraderie and the fellowship on the course with us. I've now re-entered your email address on the golf group list and want you to know that we'd be honored to have you rejoin us as one of those used-to-bes and former somethings. Just want you to remember to bring your money with you to pay out on the skins. If I know Jan, you won't have to spend a whole lot more time at home than you are now before she joins the rest of our wives in asking, isn't anyone playing golf today?
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. Well, I'll look forward to those bright, sunny Saturdays, warm Saturdays.
Now we have Mayor Kurt Skog. Mayor Kurt Skog.
Thank you. First of all, Commissioners, thank you for allowing us to have this time to speak with you today. I want to take you back to 1977. I'm going to focus on Overland Park, of course. That's when Ed Eilert started his service as a council member in Overland Park. To give you some perspective, that's the year Jimmy Carter was sworn in as the 39th president. Wow. The original Star Wars movie was released, and Radio Shack introduced the new TRS-80 microcomputer, which I used in high school. He was elected to Ward 2, Overland Park City Council, April 1977. I'm kind of fond of Ward 2. Elected mayor in 81. 28 years of service to the residents of Overland Park. During that time, the population grew from 82,802 in 1977 to 168,422 in 2005. When I think of Ed, I think of financial stewardship, AAA bond rating that we still have, lowest property tax that we still have in the metropolitan area in the state of Kansas. Managed development, corporate woods to College Boulevard, buying park space, hundreds of residential neighborhoods and subdivisions, infrastructure that enabled us to be the city we are today. He left and focused on a highly capable city staff. His legacy to Overland Park residents is that of success and prosperity. Ed is leaving a strong foundation for us to continue to build for the future. Thank you for your service, Ed, your leadership, your mentorship. The word he would always advise me is it's about quality of life. And quality of life captures all of the things that everybody's talking about today. Thank you and congratulations. Jan, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Now we have David Warm. David Warm.
None of this was on my agenda.
I apologize, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Not Linda.
Members of the Commission, I'm David Warm with the Mid-America Regional Council, and I'm very honored to join this tribute to you, Chairman Eilert, for your extraordinary leadership and impact on our region. As others have said so well, you've left a legacy that's positioned this community and our entire region for long-term success. And I join people across metropolitan Kansas City in thanking you not only for what you've achieved, but how you have shaped the character of our civic life. You've demonstrated the power of integrity through your thoughtful, judicious decision-making, and at the same time, you've fostered the capacity of local governments by building up strong, trusted institutions that are guided by positive visions for the future and that deliver quality outcomes for citizens. You've served as a mentor and a model for countless elected leaders and public professionals, including me, and I have been privileged to witness your steady behind-the-scenes effectiveness in building the kinds of trust and relationships that allow us to work across boundaries on so many different matters. Along the way, you've left a legacy of transformative investments in institutions and achievements that include Union Station, the Johnson County Economic Research Triangle, superb parks and cultural facilities, strong civic organizations, and many, many others. I'm especially respectful of the steady judgment that you brought to the very difficult conversations and challenges we've had across boundaries over the last couple of years as we've faced public health crises and have tried to manage them in a time of unprecedented uncertainty. For all of these reasons and many more, the elected officials that comprise the MARC Board of Directors recognized you many, many months ago as a recipient of a Regional Leadership Award. And just 2 weeks ago at your final MARC Board meeting, every single elected official around that table took a moment to thank you for your extraordinary contributions, not only to this community, but to the entire metropolitan area. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Now we have Andy Huckabee. Andy Huckabee.
Chairman Eilert, my friend Ed, thank you for your extraordinary leadership. And Jan, thank you for sharing Ed with us for so many years. The sacrifice that spouses make to support people who are in elected office is significant and not often acknowledged. And I want to acknowledge that and thank you for that. You know, and when I served, a number of people would ask me, why do you do this? And my answer, my best answer, was to improve the quality of life of the people that lived and worked in my city. And Ed, I think you embody that in all of your work and all of your legacy that you're leaving here. Your influence can be felt and seen all over our community and region. You've been my role model, you've been an advocate, you've been a mentor, and you've been a friend. Thank you for the wonderful ride.
Thank you.
Now we have Jan Kessinger. Jan Kessinger.
I was just going to say ditto. That would speed things up, wouldn't it, Ed? I've known Ed in my role as a state representative and as a member of the Blue Valley School Board, but I can only reiterate what so many here this morning have said and will say, how Ed has meant so much to the community for so many years. But I want to talk about the Ed I got to know as I served as a care minister for our mutual friend Ben Craig in his dying days in August of 2016. Ben had a childhood friend and a life companion his final 10 years, Vivian Surratt. At the end of Ben's life, she was also having major physical issues that Ben was very concerned about. And when I would visit Ben in hospice care, he wanted only to ask about Vivian and to express his desire that she be looked after and cared for. So for 6.5 years since Ben died, Ed Eilert has fulfilled the wishes of his good friend, Ben Craig, that Vivian be looked after and cared for. He helped see that she was moved back to her hometown of Baxter Springs and then back up here for greater managed care. And to this day, Ed checks in on her well-being. Ed Eilert is a giant in the story of Johnson County and Overland Park, but I most admire you, Ed, for the true and lasting friendship that you exhibit in caring for the loved one of your good friend who was left behind. You're a giant of a friend with a heart to match.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we have Sean Riley. Sean Riley.
Good morning, Chairman Eilert and Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. Happy New Year to everybody. You know, it's interesting to think that you came from a small farm town in Kansas and to become leader of the largest or most populated county in the state of Kansas. Congratulations. People talk about your 44 years of public service. You also had a public service prior to that as teacher at a public school, am I correct? So you've had a long service to the community, and I appreciate everything you've done. When I was hired in 1990 at the City of Overland Park, I was hired as part of the PR team. And in PR, you always want to make your client look great. Ed, you did that. You made it so easy for me to do that. If you look at the awards the City of Overland Park has won over the years or decades, as well as the county, you'll see he has achieved a lot and is reflected in those awards. And I appreciate everything you've done, and I appreciate everything you've done for me. I'm glad to have worked for you while you were mayor of Overland Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Jim Hicks. Jim Hicks. Thank you. Now we have Julia Meyer. Julia Meyer.
Good morning. I've lived in Johnson County for over 50 years, and my husband Dennis has lived here for 60 or more. We raised our families here with wonderful opportunities from this county, and we were probably pretty oblivious to the visionary leaders that made that wonderful life for our families possible. So I wanted to thank you. And in the winter copy of the Johnson County magazine, Penny Postdoc Ferguson said what others have said here today. You always did the right thing for the right reasons, no matter how difficult. So I thank you for that, and I hope that future elected officials will continue this legacy.
Thank you.
Now we have District Attorney Steve Howe. District Attorney Steve Howe.
Good morning to the commission, and good morning, Ed, and congratulations on a fine career. I want to start out on a personal note to thank you as a young a person running for office. You supported me when you didn't have to, and you continued to mentor me when you became chair, and we had those monthly meetings, and they meant a lot to me personally. I learned a lot from you. And then when we went on our little tour where we, for the quarter-cent sales tax, I learned how effective you are in connecting with people from all different backgrounds. And I marveled at your ability to connect with people and get them to understand complex issues. And so I learned a lot from you, and I will miss having those opportunities to learn more. You know, you have created a really great environment for this county, both as the mayor of Overland Park and on this commission. Your leadership has been outstanding. And you know, in today's world where politics and all the vitriol that's going on, the one thing that you can guarantee when you have Ed Eilert on the dais is that you've got an ethical person, a person who cares, and a person who truly feels like he's connected and trying to do the best thing for his community. And so it's going to be missed. And in closing, probably the best thing I could say is that you are a gentleman, both on the dais and outside the dais, and that is a rare commodity in today's world. I wish you and Jan the very best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now we have Sheriff Cal Hayden. Sheriff Cal Hayden.
Sure.
It's rare that I feel like a rookie, but boy, this is a tough crowd to follow here. Good morning, Commission. Mr. Chairman, I'll echo a lot of things that have been said here. The word gentleman comes to mind. You mentored me sitting behind that dais. I've saw people that called you every name in the book, and you handle it with grace and professionalism, and you set an example for all of us. You know, we drive around Johnson County, and I see all of the things you've done, Research Triangle, the courthouse, Sprint Center, all these different things, the convention center. You've had an incredible effect on Johnson County, and you're a great guy, but Jan, you're awesome. Ed, you outkicked your coverage. She and your family are awesome. Thank you for mentoring and leading me and supporting me. We haven't always agreed, but it's never been personal, and that's the one thing I've learned from you is we can all get along even if we don't agree. So thank you for your leadership, thank you for your mentorship, and I hope you have a ball in your retirement. And I already had a deal with Jan. If she gets sick of you, she's going to give me a call and we'll go hang out. Talk to you later, sir.
Sheriff, thank you.
Now we have Mayor John Bacon. Mayor John Bacon.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chairman. I'm here mainly to talk about Olathe. We like to talk to Olathe, or think of Olathe as the capital of Johnson County. So thank you for allowing me to be here to help give Chairman Eilert a final meeting so fitting for a man who has dedicated his life to public service. Chairman Eilert has committed himself to making his community a better place for all, and has led with class, character, and conviction while doing it. He's been a fantastic ally for the city of Olathe. The partnership between Olathe and the county has blossomed under Chairman Eilert, making way for projects and programs that improve the lives of thousands of Johnson Countyans every day. Street projects, stormwater projects, parks, downtown development, the new courthouse, the county square, and so much more. Chairman, we're grateful for your leadership and your legacy. You've given more than half your life to this community and your whole heart, and we're all better for it. Thank you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. We'll always remember your leadership and also your predecessor, Mayor Copeland. We had years of sharing service together. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now we have Clay Blair. Clay Blair. Okay, thank you. Now we have Tim McGee. Tim McGee.
Commissioner Eilert, thank you for your service. I want to say on behalf of the Olathe Chamber of Commerce, thank you for your service, not only to Johnson County, but to our board of directors that you've served on for the last decade or more. I met then Mayor Eilert over 28 years ago when I worked at the Overland Park Chamber of Commerce. And you're a mentor to not only me, but many of our staff who have now spread throughout Johnson County. At that time, you had a strong focus on quality in downtown Overland Park. You carried that over, into Johnson County as a whole. And it's been said, you've changed our downtown forever. That new courthouse that is beautiful and would not have happened but for your effort and your guidance on that. So thank you. You've forever changed Johnson County and Olathe. The last few years have probably been some of the hardest years, I'm sure, that you've had during COVID. I just appreciate how your communication to the business community and sharing with us what was transpiring moving forward. And I appreciate those calls that you gave to not only myself, but the business community. And just want to say thank you for your support of business and for Johnson County, and good luck in your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have John Peterson. John Peterson.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. I tried to think, what could I do that would be just a great gift in light of your retirement, and that is, without resistance, stay within my allotted time for once. After 37 years of appearing before you in your various capacities of leadership in this in the city and the county. I had a note from my wife. This is what I was supposed to start out with today, and it hasn't been mentioned today, but to recognize your leadership for those in our communities with disabilities. It's probably one that a lot of people don't know about. Terry, as you know, is very involved in that as well, and so many people have been blessed with you using your bully pulpit to advocate for those people. Now, for a minute, I'm going to speak on behalf, maybe presumptuously, on behalf of the development community and say thank you. You were tough, but you were fair. You were bold, you were willing to take risk, but it was always tempered with that sense of stewardship you have for the public interest at large. And you drug us developers to the point that we recognized that balance was critically important. And I think your efforts, in significant part, the mosaic of Johnson County, and really the nationally recognized masterpiece of development, is in large part due to your involvement in so many of the major projects in the county over the years. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Now we have Tracy Osborne. Tracy Osborne.
Good morning. On behalf of the Overland Park Chamber of Commerce, I'm happy to represent our business community and thanking you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commission, for the opportunity to be here, and thank you, Jan, and your family for your service as well. Overland Park is proud to have been the home of the Eilerts for the last 50 years and for being the start of Mr. Chair's service as the Overland Park City Council, and thank you very much for your service. As you all know, he has supported a number of issues: school bond issues, By State One, and the beginning of the transformational partnership with business that put Overland Park and our county on the national map as the place to live, work, and play. With Ed's stewardship, Overland Park and Johnson County have won numerous financial awards. By not worrying about who gets the credit, we have accomplished much in our county. But it's the way he served more than his individual accomplishments that I want to particularly note today. In my observation, Chair Eilert is the first to share recognition, but takes the burden of challenges and criticism upon himself. He is a strategic, visionary leader who achieves both short and long-term goals for the betterment of the region. He has fostered collaboration among communities on both sides of the state line. And as many have mentioned, he's been at his best in the most challenging of times, particularly the Great Recession and most recently during the pandemic. He listens to all sides of an issue before making up his mind, gathering information, and then making a decision that will benefit us all. He's called me many times to ask about the business community's opinions, and Tim already referenced he does that with many of our colleagues across the region. In December, our chamber presented Ed with our Rick Worrell Community Legacy Award in recognition of his pragmatic, steady hand of leadership that's been a driving force for our thriving economy, a high quality of life, and outstanding good government for nearly 50 years. So, Mr. Chair, thank you for your service. Enjoy retirement, and this time make it stick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Eilert, I'd like to state there were others that wanted to speak today but were not able to be here, but we do have one additional presentation.
Mr. Chairman, as you proceed to come join me here at the podium, I would like to offer in recognition Ed Eilert Appreciation Day. Whereas Ed Eilert, and many of us have already heard these presentations in some component, brought forth in a resolution that says he is retiring after 44 years of public service, including 16 years on the Board of County Commission, presiding over his final BOCC meeting today. And whereas Johnson County grew over 19% during your tenure on the board, and whereas as chairman, you led education efforts leading to voter approval of the quarter-cent public safety sales tax to fund the courthouse and the medical examiner's facility, as well as develop the Johnson County Square. And whereas the acquisition and transformation of the former King Louis bowling alley and ice rink into the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center occurred under your leadership. And whereas while as chairman, Johnson County became home for other amenities, including Meadowbrook Park, Cedar Nile Park, Monticello Library, the Lenexa City Center Library, and many, many more, Mr. Chairman. And whereas during your tenure, Johnson County Wastewater completed the total rebuild of the Tomahawk Creek Wastewater Facility on time and on budget, Mr. Chairman, and began planning for major improvements of the Nelson Wastewater Treatment Facility. And whereas, as chairman, you showed steadfast leadership and grace as you navigated the organization and the community through difficult times, complex issues involving the Great Recession and, of course, COVID-19. And whereas, under your leadership, Johnson County maintained the covenant AAA bond rating since 2009, and the county taxpayers have saved tens of millions of dollars. And whereas You have framed the Athenian oath, Mr. Chairman, and to quote, to transmit our community not only, not less, but greater and more beautiful than it was when it was transmitted to us. So, Mr. Chairman, it is resolved, Your Honor, to honor you in your retirement for public service from the Board of County Commission. We proclaim today, January 5th, Ed Eilert Appreciation Day. Thank you for your service, sir.
Commissioner, thank
We are now going to do a photo.
Now, we would like everyone that spoke that came for this presentation to come to the front of the room for a picture, please.
How do you get away with telling her what to do? Well, I was going to say. I read the whole thing. At the COA meeting. Yes, oh, yeah, yeah, thank you for doing that.
We will take a 5-minute recess. Well, at this time, we'll reconvene from our 5-minute recess. I had absolutely no idea that this activity was going to include comments this morning, and I can only say this. It's been my opportunity, it's been my privilege to work with some tremendous people in our county and in our cities over the years. And I mentioned this morning former city manager Don Pipes and John Nachbar of Overland Park, and at the county, Mike Press, Hannah Zacharias, and Penny Post Oak Ferguson. We continue to have dedicated professionals who work with the electeds across our county and in our cities to make Johnson County one of the best places to live, work, and raise a family. So thank you all very much for that support. We will now turn to our regular agenda. The clerk has one note for the record to read.
The chairman noted for the record that he would sign a development agreement with Michael McNellis to allow occupancy of the existing dwelling during construction of a new home on property at 19490 South Lone Elm Road. The agreement includes provisions to ensure timely removal of the existing dwelling upon completion of the new home and contingency funds that the county can use to remove the existing dwelling in the event the owner does not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This morning is our first meeting since December 18. We did not have an agenda review opportunity, so we have what we call a cold agenda this morning. And the clerk will please read the first item.
Item number 1, consider approving the December 1st, 2022 business session minutes. All were present, but with this being a cold agenda, no one needs to abstain.
Are there any corrections or additions to be noted? If not, do I hear a motion to approve? Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the December 1, 2022 business session minutes.
Second, Hanslick.
Allenbrand made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the minutes as presented. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Next item.
Item number 2, consider approving the appointment of Jennifer Day, 1st District Representative to the Museum Advisory Council through May 7th, 2023.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Yes, I have a motion. I move to approve the appointment of Jennifer Day, 1st District Representative to the Museum Advisory Council through May 7th, 2023.
Hanslick, second.
Fast made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the appointment as presented. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. There are 6 votes in favor. Motion carried. Next item.
Yes, I move to approve the appointment of Sheila.
Excuse me.
Okay.
1 second.
Wait a minute. The clerk needs to read it into the record.
Sorry.
1 second.
Trying to
The-
get
the
through
vote-
these.
The vote on the previous was 7-0. I think you stated.
Yes, 7 votes, yes.
7 votes. Thank you. Item number 3, consider approving the appointment of Sheila Albers, First District Representative to the Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board through June 30th, 2025.
Ms. Fast.
Yes, I move to approve the appointment of Sheila Albers, First District Representative to the Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board through June 30th, 2025.
Hanslick, second.
Fast made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the appointment as noted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Item number 4.
Consider approving the appointment of Lisa Patterson Kinsey, First District Representative to the Consolidated Fire District Number 2 through August 25th, 2025.
Ms. Fast.
Yes, I move to approve the appointment of Lisa Patterson Kinsey, First District Representative to the Consolidated Fire District Number 2 through August 25th, 2025.
Hanslick, second.
Commissioner Fast made the motion. Commissioner Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the appointment as noted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Normally, those items would have been on the consent agenda, so thank you for your patience. Item number 5.
Resolution number 003-23, application number SC 22-262-FDP-AU, and application number SC 22-263-CUP-AU. Consider request from Judd Clausen, Phelps Engineering, applicant, on behalf of Lawn and Landscape Solution and Baxter Investments, LLC, landowner, for revised final development plan, FDP, and amended conditional use permit, CUP, for outdoor storage for a term of 10 years on property located at 20924 Floyd Street.
Ms. Leininger.
Good morning, Michelle Leininger, County Planning Staff. This is a revision to an approved final development plan and conditional use permit for Lawn and Landscape Solution located in the Metcalf 211 Business Park on the west side of Metcalf between 207th Street and 215th Street. This is a comparison of the approved final development plan on the left, which was approved in December of 2021. And then on the right is what is proposed to be tweaked with this. The project is proposed to be split into 2 phases. So what's outlined in red is phase 1. The original approvals depended on the construction of the public infrastructure, which includes 210th Street into that cul-de-sac, which extends west, and then regional stormwater facilities south and west of the subject property. These improvements are the responsibility of the project developer, and while the plans have been submitted, improvements have not yet been made, which is holding up the applicant's outdoor storage project. The proposed changes include the approved parking lot to the north of this existing building to outdoor storage and shifting everything north, including some greenhouses and outdoor storage bins north, and then adding on-site detention in order for the phase 1 to meet code standards prior to the public improvements. And then here's the approved development plan versus phase 2. This will occur after the public improvements are completed. This allows for an access to 210th Street for site circulation and removal of the temporary stormwater facilities. Overall, the changes from the approved plans to the proposed plans are the changes of the parking lot and the north of the building to outdoor storage. With the parking lot changes, the site still meets the district parking requirements. And after phase 2 is complete, the outdoor storage will be approximately 37,000 square feet from the approved plans. The proposed changes of traffic will not increase. The site circulation will be adequate and meet emergency and fire codes with both phases. The project remains in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the regulations. At the December 7th, the Southeast Area Zoning Board voted as recommended by staff to approve this project. No members of the public spoke regarding this item, and I can answer any questions, and Harold Phelps from Phelps Engineering is here to represent the applicant.
Again, this comes to us with a positive recommendation from both the zoning board and the staff.
Yes.
Ms. O'Hara?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you're ready, I have a motion.
Okay. Other questions? Ms. Hensley?
Yes, I was just wondering if Ms. Leininger can tell us, what's the anticipated length of time between phase 1 and phase 2?
That really depends on the project developer. They have plans submitted. It was just a flux of how much asphalt, concrete, and stuff increased. And so the construction season got away from the developer. So we would anticipate them being able to do phase 2 probably by the end of this year.
I didn't know whether it was like 2 years or...
No, we would hope that the street and the stormwater improvements would be done this spring, early summer.
Thank you.
Other questions? Is there anyone present who would like to, excuse me, is the applicant present? Any comments you'd like to make?
Excuse me, Harold Phelps, Phelps Engineering. Mr. Mayor, and you'll always be the mayor to me. That's where it started, and I didn't make the VIP list, so I hope you don't mind if I take an opportunity to say a few words here. You know, you've always given us an opportunity to speak, and you've always had an open door and always been able to communicate with you, and we certainly appreciate that personally and as a business community. Johnson County has been a great place to raise my family and a great place to grow my business. And as you all know, I've been here on a regular basis, and it's just been a wonderful opportunity. And, you know, I've always said, and I've told you this before, I don't know why you do this, you know, why you did this for 40 plus years, but listening to all the speakers that spoke today, I now know why you did it. And you've got some wonderful accomplishments in this county, and from the bottom of my heart, appreciate everything that you've done for us personally as little guys, citizens, businesses, and as a community. So thank you very much. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I'll simply say this, your comments, there is no conflict of interest because it's been approved by both the boards and the zoning board as well as the planning staff. So I'll just make that little editorial.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item? All right. If not, it's back before the commission. Ms. O'Hara, you have a motion.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to adopt resolution number 003-23, which approves a revised final development plan and amended conditional use permit for outdoor storage for a term of 10 years on the subject property for the reasons and subject to the stipulations set forth in the resolution.
Alan Brand, second.
Commissioner O'Hara made the motion. Commissioner Allen Brand seconded the motion to approve the resolution and the application as recommended. Any further questions or comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Alan Brand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. I believe item number 6 is next.
Resolution number 005-23, consider City of Gardner application number Z-22-07, PDP-22-07, and FDP-22-05, a rezoning preliminary development plan and final development plan for Santa Fe Self-Storage, a personal indoor self-storage facility on approximately 5.06 acres, generally located north of Santa Fe Street and west of Cedar Niles Road, within 1 mile of New Century Air Center.
Ms. Creeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Commission. Good morning. Michelle Cricks with Johnson County Planning. And this is a City of Gardner application for rezoning from a city designation of C2, which is general commercial, to planned general commercial, a preliminary development plan, and a final development plan for Santa Fe Self-Storage, generally located north of Santa Fe Street and west of Cedar Niles Road, as highlighted here on the slide. This application is going before the Board of County Commissioners because the subject property is located within 1 mile of New Century Air Center to determine land use compatibility as required by Kansas state statute. Here's a copy of the site plan for the facility. The subject property is currently undeveloped with a zoning designation of general commercial. The site area is 5.6 acres, and proposed development includes 3 self-storage buildings, concrete drives and parking, and minimal perimeter landscaping. So here's just a showing what the elevations would look like. The middle and the west building are proposed to be 2 stories with a height of 23 feet 4 inches. The third building on the east side of the property is proposed to be single-story structure, less than 20 feet in height. Lighting for the subject property would be wall-mounted light fixtures, which would be shielded and downcast to prevent upward glare and any trespass illumination, and lighting would be concentrated around the buildings for security purposes. These applications were reviewed in relation to the proposed land use and proximity to the airport, and it was determined that the subject property is not within the primary flight corridor. However, it is located within the airport interest area, which is highlighted in green on the slide, and within the noise impact area. And while it is located within the noise impact area, given the type of business proposed and the temporary on-site nature of customers, minimizing aircraft noise would not be an issue with this use. So this slide here shows just how a small portion of the runway protection zone, which is that yellow hatch mark, that overlaps the subject property at the northeast corner of the site. However, no buildings and very minimal concrete will be constructed within that overlap area. The applicant did submit and receive the airspace obstruction determination from the FAA on September 30th, 2022 for this project. And the FAA did determine that a no hazard to air navigation for the proposed height of the buildings or the construction crane. The City of Gardner gave their final approval for the application at the October 17th, 2022 meeting. Johnson County Planning staff recommended approval of this item. The Airport Commission heard this item at their December 7th, 2022 meeting hearing and recommended approval with stipulations, and no one from the public commented on this project. That does conclude my presentation, and I'm available for questions. The applicant is also available by Zoom if you have questions for her as well.
And again, this comes to us with approval of the city, the Airport Commission also.
That is correct, sir.
Thank you. Questions? Ms. Allenbrand?
Mr. Chair, when you're ready, I do have a motion.
Okay. Is the applicant present? Any comments they would like to make?
Hi, this is Hillary Zaire with Davidson Architecture and Engineering. I'm the applicant. I don't have any comments, but thank you for the presentation, Michelle, and thank you all for having me today.
Okay. Questions of the applicant? Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item? If not, it's back before the commission. A motion is in order. Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to adopt resolution number 005-23, approving the City of Gardner application number Z-22-07, PDP 2207, and FDP 2207, a rezoning preliminary development plan and final development plan for Santa Fe Self-Storage, a personal indoor storage facility on approximately 5.06 acres for the reasons and subject to speculation set forth in the resolution.
Do I hear him?
Hanslick, second.
Commissioner Allenbrand made the motion. Commissioner Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the project as approved and recommended by the City of Gardner and Airport Commission as presented. Any further questions or comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor, motion carried. Item number 7.
Resolution number 001-23, application number SE 22-249-FDP-AU. Consider request from Dale Brock, applicant, and LLJ3-Pandy LLC landowner for a final development plan serving as the final plat for 23 residential lots to be known as Blue Valley at Loch Lloyd, zoned PRN2, Planned Residential Neighborhood 2 District, and located at the northeast corner of 175th Street and Kenneth Road.
Ms. Wicklund.
Diane Wicklund, Planning Department. The subject property is located at the northeast corner of 175th Street and Kenneth Road, as shown here on the vicinity map. This is a request for a final plat for 23 residential lots on 62 acres to be known as Blue Valley at Loch Lloyd. The rezoning to the Planned Residential Neighborhood 2 District and the preliminary plat were approved by this board on August 11th of this year. This subdivision will be accessed through the Loch Lloyd development to the east on the Missouri side, and then through the Stonehaven subdivision to the north, back on the Kansas side. The subdivision will be a private gated community. Here's an aerial view of the subject property outlined in blue. And then here's a aerial view of the surrounding area, and you can see the Loch Lloyd development there on the east side. And then here's a copy of the final plat. Also to note that there were no members of the public that spoke at the zoning board meeting on this application. Planning staff recommends approval of the application, and the zoning board also recommended approval of the final plat with stipulations. And with that, I'm available for questions, and the applicants, Dale Brook and Brett Hoagland, are also present and available for questions.
Well, as I recall, Ms. Wicklund, this is not the first Loch Lloyd development that we've reviewed. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I think it's interesting. The public might be interested in knowing that Loch Lloyd was built as a Missouri housing and golf course. But Loch Lloyd is also on the Kansas side of the line in Johnson County. So, questions, Ms. O'Hara?
I have a motion when you're ready.
Okay. Other questions, Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Wicklund, in previous conversations, there were some questions related to emergency service access, and have those been resolved satisfactorily?
Yes, that's correct. So as you can see here, there's an emergency access that's off of 175th Street, kind of right down here where my hand is. And that emergency access is provided to meet the building and fire code requirements.
Very good. Thank you.
Other questions? All right. Is there any comment the applicant would like to make?
I'm going to digress a little bit. As former chair of the Platte County EDC and current chair of the Parkville EDC, sounds to me I picked the wrong county to live in based on what I heard today. Thank you very much. My only comments are I want to thank Sean and Diane again for great work they did. We're helping us through this process. We had a little hiccups in August. We had to figure some things out, and we got it done. And with their help, they've been very great, very great to work with. Any questions, I'll answer.
Questions of the applicant? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item? If not, it's back before the commission for action. Ms. O'Hara, did you have a motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I move to adopt resolution number 001-23, which approves a final development plan serving as the final plat for 23 residential lots to be known as Blue Valley at Loch Lloyd for the reasons and subject to the stipulations set forth in the resolution.
Allen Brand, second.
Commissioner O'Hara made the motion. Commissioner Allen Brand seconded the motion to approve the resolution and the application as presented. Any further questions or comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allen Brand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. There are 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Item number 8.
Resolution number 002-23, consider City of Overland Park application number REZ 2022-00012 for a rezoning from RUR-J, Rural District, Johnson County, to RP-IN, Planned Single Family Infill Residential District for Mills Villas development on 11 acres located at the northeast and southeast corners of 167th Street and Quivira Road, Overland Park, Kansas, and located within 1 mile of the Johnson County Executive Airport.
Ms. Wicklund again.
Diane Wicklund, Planning Department. The subject property is located at the northeast and southeast corners of 167th Street and Quivira Road, as shown on the vicinity map. The subject property is located within the city of Overland Park and is located within 1 mile of the Executive Airport, which is why the application is before you for review of airport compatibility. The application is for a rezoning request from RURJ to RPIN, which is a single infill residential zoning district for the Mills Villas. It's a proposed development for 31 single-family lots on approximately 11 acres. Here's an aerial view of the subject property outlined in blue. And then this is a copy of the preliminary plan for the subdivision. The subject property is not located within the area designated by the county as airport interest area, and the property is also not located within the flight corridor and is not within the area of noise impacts. Planning staff recommends approval of the application, and the Airport Commission also recommended approval of the proposed rezoning with stipulations and had no concerns or issues with the application. Also to note that there were no members of the public that spoke on this application at the Airport Commission meeting. And with that, I'm available for questions, and the applicant, Harold Phelps, is also present for questions.
Questions of the staff? Ms. O'Hara? Okay.
I have a motion when you're ready.
All right. If there are no questions, the applicant have any comments that they would like to make? All right, no comments from the applicant. Anyone present like to make a comment? All right, if not, it's back for the commission. Ms. O'Hara, you have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to adopt resolution number 002-23, approving a rezoning from RUR-J Rural District, Johnson County to RP-IN Planned Single Family Infill Residential District for Mills Villas Development, located within 1 mile of Johnson County Executive Airport for the reasons and subject to the stipulations as recommended by the Airport Commission.
Allen Brand, second.
Commissioner O'Hara made the motion. Allen Brand seconded the motion to approve the resolution and the rezoning approved by the City of Overland Park as well as the Airport Commission. Any further questions? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allen Brand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Next item.
Item number 9. Consider authorizing an agreement between Johnson County and the City of DeSoto, Kansas for the provision of law enforcement services in 2023 by the Sheriff's Office to the City of DeSoto for the total amount of $591,381.
Ms. Kilgore.
Good morning. Nicole Kilgore with the Sheriff's Office. This is a contract between the Sheriff's Office and the City of DeSoto for policing services provided by the Sheriff's Office to the city. DeSoto does not have their own police department, so the sheriff is required to provide those police protection services. The contract just defines the service levels and outlines the amount that the city will pay for those services in 2023. There was a boundary change to the south due to a recent annexation, but there were no other significant service level changes for 2023. The amount of the contract, again, is $591,381. That is an 8.8% increase over prior year, which is driven by an increase in administrative costs as well as an increase in the amount of call volume within the city. It is important to note that it does not include the increase from the recent pay plan change for the Sheriff's Office that was approved by the board. We had provided the city this estimate in April for their budgeting purposes. We did meet with them after the pay plan was approved and discussed those increased costs with them. The feedback from the cities was that their budgets were set and they do not have the room to take on additional costs in 2023 for this contract. So we agreed to keep it at the quote we provided in April, with the understanding that in 2024, the contract would go up significantly to account for those increased salaries. And with that, I can stand for questions, and the sheriff is also here to take any questions you have.
All right, thank you. Sheriff, do you have a comment? My question is, there is an understanding. I understand what happened here. Cities make their budgets on the same schedule we do, and then we had to make some adjustments in the sheriff's budget late in the year following the adoption. So there are some additional charges that will be, does my understanding, applied to 2024 and not 23? Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Give them time to budget for it.
Yeah, any other comments you'd like to make? Okay, questions? Ms. Allenbrad.
Mr. Chair, when you're ready, I do have a motion.
Okay, Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Gilmore, thank you. It's not Gilmore. Kilmore, excuse me. Thank you for the reflection on the changes in salaries and how it will impact future budgets. And I concur with the chair. I understand what the situation is. Could you elaborate a little bit on the cost recovery model that you use? Do you go for full cost recovery or some modification of that? My recollection is that there was some modification, but I don't remember what the methodology was. And then the second question, and if you'd like to pivot this to the chair or to the sheriff, please do. Panasonic is going to have a significant impact on many services, least of all is the sheriff. And Sheriff, I understand I believe you've had some discussions with Edgerton about creating their own department or migrating that way. I was wondering if that's the thought process with DeSoto, and I'm not pushing, I'm just honestly being curious at this point.
Addressing your first question, the model is direct cost plus a percentage for administrative costs. So that percentage in this contract, we increased from 10% to a little over 13% this year. And then the direct cost of salaries, benefits, vehicles, maintenance, tires, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Can you respond to the second question?
And the second question, I kind of got misquoted in the paper on creating their own police department.
No.
The model, yeah, well, as usual. The model was actually, we would assign officers to their city. So they would have contact with the city residents more than us rotating them through. And my idea is we assign a lieutenant there, and they have their own, basically their own staff assigned to their city. We still offer a pretty good deal to our partners out there. You know, they are struggling right now because a lot of this development that's going on isn't paid for up front. So they're still struggling with providing more police protection while not having the revenue to support it. We want to be good partners with that because, quite frankly, if they decided just to walk away from it, we're stuck with it. We still have an obligation to do it. So we've been really have good relationships with our stakeholders down there. We provide a lot of things that that aren't seen: the crime lab, the drug task force, emergency response, SWAT team, all that stuff. And it's hard to calculate all those costs because we use them countywide. So it's a balance. And this year, as you all know, we've all been here fighting for these salaries. It's been a roller coaster. And, you know, thank you for supporting our staff. We're making progress getting people in the door. It's really working out well. But it's just almost impossible to say, okay, here's what we're going to charge, and then change midstream and do that to them. We want to be good partners.
Thank you. Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I know you may not be able to answer this time, but I know we're talking about significant increase in '24. Do we have an idea, ballpark, what that significant increase could be?
Well, again, when we go to these large industrial areas, it takes a lot of time because you got to go through different personnel. There's all these different companies that you want to be good partners with, and they all have different policies about how you get in the door, how you contact. So it takes a lot of time. But they also want that community contact. Edgerton's a great example. We're constantly trying to make sure that we've got officers in the city where residents live and then out in the industrial area. Well, things are picking up, and we are trying to work with them to say, look, in the next few years, I mean, we're projecting, and with DeSoto, they'd need probably additional 5 officers. But we don't know if that's going to be this year or next year down the road. Some of you have gone out to Henderson and seen some of the issues. I'm going soon to go out and talk with the sheriff out there and see if we can make some kind of a reasonable projection that they can afford and that we can give them a good service which you guys aren't going to hear complaints about.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. Fast.
Yes, I mean, in here, it's an 8.8 increase, but we raised salaries more than 8.8. So it just doesn't look like we're being held harmless.
We're not. We're not at all. We're trying to accommodate them. We've got costs anyway that have gone up, but there's no way to project once they had their budget approved and they've gone through it, and they don't have the revenue to raise it right now, but if next year comes, they can. We just want to be good partners with them. And quite frankly, we provide a lot of services to our cities and even counties that we don't get full recovery for. We try, but if it's a case involving Johnson County residents, we still have an obligation there.
I still think this is different. You're not the prime, police patrol for other cities. You're the designated police officer, and I think we should be held harmless. And I ask that you move forward to that, especially, it's going to dramatically increase with DeSoto, with development, housing. And I question it, maybe it's time for them to get their own police force. They're moving into being a larger mid-range city. They're no longer that unincorporated little DeSoto.
Well,
for a lot of their area.
Again, I think has been explained that those issues will be addressed in the '24 budget, and due to circumstances and timing, they can't be addressed in the '23. So, Ms. Hanslick.
Yes, thank you. No, I understand the situation with DeSoto, but I do think taxpayers in Johnson County should know they are picking up part of that cost. So, when people have concern about their property taxes, they need to know that they're helping underwrite the police protection in those cities. And I understand. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that that's the reality.
We do a lot of things for other cities that I don't think people are recognized. I'll give you an example. Roland Park, we do all their investigative work. If they have a crisis up there, the sheriff's office responds to that. We don't send them a bill for that because they all pay taxes.
The Roland Park Police do the investigative work too. I wouldn't say that you take over that. It's very much a joint partnership.
I would disagree with you.
I'll disagree with you and talk to my chief of police.
Our
Being
staff
on city council.
does handle it.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Ms. O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is only the beginning because the city of DeSoto has given Panasonic a 100% $202,600,000 tax increment finance district. they have no tax revenues that's going to be coming off of this development to fund the additional policing requirements. We've seen it with the fire station that we just sent $7.5 million. This is just the beginning. Don't worry, we're going to be sending more. And it's because of tax incentives. So we have $1 billion+ I don't even know how big Panasonic is, billions of dollars. We have this huge company coming into Johnson County. The entire county is subsidizing this development, and we have 4,000 possible employees, except we don't really have any signed contract with Panasonic, so we really don't know. And believe you me, they will be automating as rapidly as possible. But this is just the beginning. This is what giving these 100% tax incentives does. It costs the rest of the residents tax dollars. And I really appreciate Commissioner Fast and Hanslick bringing this up, because it is. We are subsidizing it, just as our appraiser, Beauvais, he has indicated. Anytime there is a tax incentive, there is a adjustment of who is paying for the services, and that is the rest of the tax base. And it's just time that we take a look at this and acknowledge that this is what is happening. And that's why I am begging, and I asked to have on the legislative agenda to at least put a cap on these incentives on the TIF districts and the industrial revenue bonds of 50%, and please consider a 10-year limit on the TIF districts instead of 20. It's ludicrous. It's undermining our tax base. We are right now diverting $84 million of taxpayers' dollars from public coffers to the pockets of developers.
Thank you. I would simply add that long-term investments do pay off. And all we have to do is look around the county at the many projects that are of benefit now that are generating tax revenue. And those long-term commitments do pay off and benefit the community. Any other questions on the item before us? Ms. Allenbrand?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a motion, but I would like to make a comment that both of these cities are in my district, and I understand that they had a budget and the sheriff agreed to work with them. And I know that both cities are talking about possibly down the road having their own police departments, but that's something, again, in negotiations with the sheriff's office. And I don't think we do realize how much the sheriff's office does provide other services in our county. And I think that's important. So do you want me to go ahead with the motion?
If there's no further questions, so I'd go ahead with the motion, yes.
I move to authorize an agreement between Johnson County and the city of DeSoto, Kansas for the provision of law enforcement services in 2023 by the sheriff's office to the city of DeSoto for the total amount of $591,381.
Myers, second.
Commissioner Allenbrand made the motion. Commissioner Myers seconded the motion to approve the agreement with the city as recommended. Is there anyone present who would like to comment on this item? All right, if not, if there's no further questions or comments, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Myers, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Fast.
You can go. Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. We have 7 votes in favor, motion carried. Next item.
Item number 10, consider authorizing an agreement between Johnson County and the city of Edgerton, Kansas for the provision of law enforcement services in 2023 for the sheriff's office to the city of Edgerton for the total amount of $485,326.
Ms. Kilgore.
Nicole Kilgore with the Sheriff's Office. This is a similar item. It is between the Sheriff's Office and the City of Edgerton for the policing services the Sheriff's Office provides for them. Again, they don't have their own police department, so we're required to provide the police protection. This one increased by 5.2% due to those administrative costs. They did not have the increase in call volume. That's why there's a difference in that percentage. Same situation. We met with them in April, provided that estimate. We met with them again after the recent pay plan change and received the same feedback that their budgets are set and they did not have the room in 2023 to cover those additional costs, but we did have the conversation to anticipate a large increase in 2024, and we will start having those conversations with the city in early 2023 to plan for that. And with that, I can stand for questions, and the sheriff is here as well.
Similar circumstances as to the DeSoto contract. Okay, questions? All right, anyone present like to speak to this item? All right, if not, it's back before the commission. A motion to be in order. Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do have a motion. And Sheriff, I do appreciate in the communities that you're putting designated sheriff's officers in those communities. I think that makes a big difference of knowing who to go to. So with that, I have a motion. I move to authorize an agreement between Johnson County and the City of Edgerton, Kansas, for the provision of law enforcement services in 2023 by the Sheriff's Office to the City of Edgerton for the total amount of $485,326.
Myers, second.
Commissioner Allenbrand made the motion. Meyer seconded the motion to approve the contract as recommended. Further questions? Ms. O'Hara.
Yes, I just want to make the comments that, again, we're subsidizing Edgerton because of the huge incentives that are given to these warehouses. They are only paying 16 cents a square foot. However, they are limited at least to the 10 years, so it'll be very interesting to see. As I think in 2025 will be the first warehouse that'll come off the incentive. So that will be interesting to see how that works out. But again, these huge incentives, which 16 cents a square foot is approximately 93% of that they're only paying 7% of their fair share, and part of that is going back to their infrastructure. We just need to understand that these tax incentives are decimating our tax base and requiring the entire county to subsidize these projects. An example in Overland Park, I mean, I live in Overland Park. Our mill levy has gone from 7.6 mills in the early 2000s to over 14 mills now, plus all the increase in valuations. So it's time for us to recognize that the tax incentives do not work, and it's reflected. These strategies are exactly that is reflected in the Trump tax release of his tax statements. It's the same strategy. It's time to say these things do not work. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Respectfully, I must report that I visited with Overland Park officials, and the statement is not correct. The mill levy has gone up in the last several years, but not because of TIF districts. So thank you very much. That's the information that I was given. Any other comments on this item? All right. If not, motion is before us. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. I'm going
Chairman,
to.
thank you, and Commissioner Fast, I'm listening, and we'll work on that in the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask for a short break, but I want to make this comment. I had a chance to watch the House of Representatives in action last night. And the clerk of the House, I thought to myself, my goodness, what a difference that we enjoy Ms. Saylor and her expertise compared to what we witnessed last night.
And we have elected a chair, too.
So we'll take a short 5-minute break and come back for the balance. Thank you. At this time, we'll reconvene from our recess. I think we are ready for item number 11.
Can Consider approval of an agreement between the county and the Unified School District Number 231, USD 231, allowing Ryan Jacobson, MD, Emergency Medical Director, to assist USD 231 by reviewing and signing the USD 231 opioid antagonist protocol and training the proper personnel in administration of opioid antagonists. The initial term of the agreement will expire on the last day of 2023, but the agreement will renew for an additional one-year terms absent 30 days notice given by either party. Also consider authorizing the director of the Johnson County Department of Health and Environment to enter into a similar opioid antagonist agreements with the governing bodies of any public or private school districts or units of local government.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to appear before you one last time. So thank you very much, and good morning, Commissioners. Charlie Hunt with the Department of Health and Environment. And I'm here to ask for a couple of things. The first is an approving agreement with Gardner-Edgerton School District, which is Unified School District Number 231, to allow Dr. Ryan Jacobson to serve as the medical director and to oversee the protocols and training for naloxone administration, primarily which is the opioid antagonist protocols. And then also to ask for approval for us to enter into future similar agreements. Just by way of background, with your approval, the county has entered into agreements with several entities that are very similar to this, including 4 police departments, 2 school districts, and the Kansas Alcoholic Beverage Commission with the Kansas Department of Revenue. So these are fairly routine now. In fact, the last time we appeared before you, this appeared on the consent agenda. And so we thought just to streamline the administrative process for any future agreements that are similar to this, we could enter into those on our own with your approval. So with that, I'll be happy to stand for questions. Dr. Jacobson is on Zoom in case there are any questions specifically about the program or the administration.
And I don't think this is the first association that we have created or agreed to. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a good program. It needs to continue and service those who are in need of it. Yes, Ms. O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, obviously this is a very needed service, which is really extremely sad to say that we are having to instruct people as to how to administer this to reverse the effects of fentanyl. Fentanyl it's killing our children, and it's a reflection of our open border. And I hope that our Congress can get its act together and can stop this influx of this tragic drug coming into our nation.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hunt, I appreciate your efforts and I'm very supportive conceptually. That this makes a lot of sense, and I will support this. But I would be interested in the near future. I'd like to understand how we measure success, what the metrics we're using. We're going to invest in this, which we should, but what results are we expecting? What kind of outcomes? And I'd like to learn more about that.
Okay. Ms. Allenbrand.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a motion when you're ready, but after speaking with the superintendent of Gardner-Edgerton School, this is so vitally important because of administering this, the reaction a person can have from this and not knowing how to handle that can be almost devastating to the person who's administering it. So I 100% support this program, and I'm so glad that you're doing it.
Other questions of staff? Ms. Ansley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hunt. I'm just curious, who in the school would be the proper personnel? Is it going to be the entire staff is trained in how to use this, or just select people? Just
Sure.
Curious.
I'll briefly answer and then defer to Dr. Jacobson, who's online. But it will be the school nurse this is primarily under. Dr. Jacobson, did you have any additional comments?
Yes, Ryan Jacobson, the EMS System Medical Director. Thanks for allowing me to speak about this. Typically, this is school nurses. We train a group in the departments and the police agencies or in the school districts, and it's a train the trainer type of model. So I do an initial training with them. They will train school nurses. Some may opt to allow school police officers as well to do that. So typically the law allowed for law enforcement personnel as well as school nurses to administer this, and that's what we're targeting.
Okay.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
All right. Other questions? Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item? If not, it's back before the commission. Ms. Allenbrand, did you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agreement between the county and Unified District Number 231 USD 231, allowing Ryan Jacobson, MD, Emergency Medical Director, to assist USD 231 by reviewing and signing USD 231 opioid anguish protocol and training for the proper personnel and administration of opioid analysts for an initial term to expire the last day of 2023 and additional 1-year terms to continue absent 30 days notice given by either party, or further to approve authorizing Director of the Johnson County Department of Health and Environment to enter into any similar opioid analyst agreements on behalf of the county and the government bodies of the public and private school districts of the units of the local governments. Wow.
Myers second. Allenbrand made the motion. Myers seconded the motion to approve the agreement with USD 231 and other entities as authorized. If there's no further discussion or questions, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Item number 12.
Consider authorizing the Johnson County Mental Health Center to accept the Kansas 988 operational grant from the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services, KDADS, in the amount of $1,200,000 to provide 24-hour coverage for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline.
Mr. Fortney.
Thank you, Chairman. Tanner Fortney, Mental Health. So I think as many of you are aware, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline went live in July of 2022. Mental Health is one of the locations in the state of Kansas. There are 3 that man that lifeline. And we've actually had a prevention lifeline that we've had for many, many years that people could call in. So that was a relatively easy transition for us. We already had a lot of staffing in place, a lot of resources. But as that's gone in place in July of last year, going back to the end of 2021, we had come before you with a $600,000 988 transition grant that we had received from KDADS. And at that particular time, we requested 6 FTEs to be able to beef up the staffing for the additional call volume that we knew would be coming. So that's worked out very, very well for us. And now this year, for 2022, we've incurred costs as a part of that hotline, and now the amount that's being increased from the state, not for the 988 transitional grant, but what they're now calling the 988 operational grant. So this is paying for those ongoing costs that we have. And the amount's gone from $600,000 up to $1.2 million. This is what we would call a reimbursement grant, and what that means is this is reimbursing us for costs that we've already incurred. This is not for future costs moving forward. We are not adding any FTEs as part of this request. We're maintaining our current staffing levels. I would anticipate, given our call volumes, probably in the coming months and years, we will be having to add more staff. But at this point, we're not having anything as part of this request. This is just for costs that we've already incurred. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Fortney, looking at your KPIs here, help me understand. We've implemented this program, and I'm supportive of the program, but I'm looking at the metrics, and it seems like there's a precipitous increase in suicides projected for 2022. So what are you anticipating? Will it be leveling off, or are you expecting some reduction because of this program and the services this program has to prevent, stop suicides from happening?
So it's kind of a difficult question to answer. It's really hard to be able to gauge whether or not we're going to see suicides leveling off. I would anticipate that's probably not the case based on the trends we've seen. And as the Johnson County population continues to grow, it's going to increase. What I do think, though, is that when you look at the numbers and the data, as well as what you can see on our client suicides, which have been going down, which I think is a testament to the great clinical work that our staff do, I think that what we're seeing is we're seeing a slowing of this number of suicides. So in other words, if we didn't have this line, instead of me projecting that we'd have 96 suicides this year, we might have 110 or 120. It's really hard as the county continues to grow, and there's all these different variables at play. But we are seeing with the work that we do and the other efforts we have, we've at least been seeing a slowing of that.
One follow on, Mr. Chair. Then do you also track comparables that other communities that we're comparable to that maybe don't have this program, and are we tracking with them, or are we bettering them, or and we can discuss this offline because I am supportive. I just don't understand what the outcomes are anticipated to be.
I'll just mention that we do look at national data and national stats, and we are seeing that we're definitely below where those national stats are on a whole. As far as looking at all of the communities, let's say in the Kansas City area, getting some of that data is very difficult because we don't always have access to it.
All right, thank you. Other questions? Is there any, Ms. Hensley?
Yes, thank you. I just want to ask, Mr. Fortney, does this grant cover the entire cost of the program?
It does not.
Is it one of the funding mechanisms?
So it is one of the funding mechanisms. We will definitely use all $1.2 million of that. I don't have, probably your next question is going to be, what is the full cost to provide the service? I don't have that number with me, and part of that is because staffing has increased a lot since July, and we've also had our own staffing shortages. We've had to pull staff from other areas of mental health. There's sometimes differences in salaries and things, so being able to kind of come up with a nice formula or flat number for that's been a little bit difficult. I can certainly get you that number, but it is over 1.2 million.
Can you even make a guess as to what percentage of the program costs does 1.2 cover? Is it half, a quarter, 75%?
I would hate to guess, so let me get that number for you.
Thank you.
Ms. O'Hara.
Thank you. So just so that people that are watching will know, the total county suicides for 2019 was 79, 2020 was 75, and 2021 was 90. So that's an extremely significant increase from 2020 to 2021. And so obviously something needs to be done. Hopefully this program is the answer, but I will also acknowledge that in 2019, our clients, we had 16 down to 10 in 2020, and then in 2021 we only had 1. So that's a victory. That is absolutely a victory. So I'm hopeful that this will work. We will stay tuned and see.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item?
Sir, we have a virtual person. We have Cassie Woolworth. Cassie Woolworth.
Good morning. Cassie
Morning,
Woolworth here. The increase in 21, just FYI, might be because of COVID and because we were all shut in. We couldn't visit our loved ones. Our Christmas of 2021 was spent in our own little living rooms with no visitors. So COVID may have a little effect on our suicide rate. Just a thought. The reason I'm here today is I want to say yes, yes, yes. The program works if you work it. And that's all the survivors will ever say. But in order to work it, you gotta fund it. So if you ain't gonna fund it, it ain't gonna work. So I am here to say yes, please, please, please say yes to the money. We've already allocated it. It really has been partially spent. And we need it. The effects of COVID are going away, but we still have the effects of being shut in for 2 years. So I am a proponent of mental health. I am a proponent of keeping the mental health patients out of jail. I am a proponent of working with the helpline 24/7, and I am so incredibly happy that we have a 988 to dial. And the resources that they are putting behind it to promote it are pretty amazing as well. So please, please, please vote yes. I think our numbers are coming down because of marvelous counseling and access to resources. And a lot of students would probably say the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hanslick, you had a question?
Well, just more of a comment / question, and this is a follow-up to Commissioner O'Hara's comment that when I look at these numbers, what it tells me is that people who do get assistance are less likely to complete a suicide. And I'm just wondering if that's a correct interpretation from your experience, Mr. Fortney, that if once as our calls are going up, those folks who are clients, who become clients, get the help they need in that crisis.
You're correct, yeah. One of the biggest things is when people are in that acute situation and they're experiencing an episode, being able to get them treatment. And this isn't just for suicides, this is for any type of service. You know, back in the 90s, we used to have a different model of mental health where people would call in, they needed service, we'd schedule something several weeks out, they would come in. Well, by that point, a lot of times they wouldn't come in because the crisis has passed, you know, that would be an issue. Well, we go to an open access model for our clients. So we have situations like this. We're going out, we're doing everything we can to make contact with these people, be able to diffuse the immediate need that they have in the crisis, and then try to get them into services as quickly as possible, because you're right. If they don't have access to that, if they call the hotline, if it rings too many times, if they don't get immediate access, they can hang up. The chances of them calling back, if they have the wherewithal to do it, is very, very slim, and their risk of suicide increases exponentially.
So just to follow up, so when I look at the numbers for 2021, where there was one suicide among mental health center clients and 90 in total in the county, I'm assuming that means 89 of those total county suicides did not have any contact with Johnson County Mental Health.
It would mean that they were not open clients. Yeah, I mean, it's possible that could there have been some sort of contact with us or another mental health professional? Absolutely, but they weren't an open client.
Okay, thank you.
Again, is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item? All right, thank you. Ms. Allenbrand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can't tell you how much I just support this 100%. And that's another reason why I'm trying to support the juvenile crisis bed unit as well. It's not just about COVID with these kids. It's about social media. It's about bullying. And as adults, we need to help our children, our grandchildren. When you put something on social media, it does not go away. And bullying is one of the #1 reasons for suicide. Other children telling children to commit suicide, it's more and more that's being done. It gives people a big voice on social media. And I think that's something that we all need to work on, is to be careful what we put in social media. So thank you for doing this.
All right, Ms. Fass.
I have a motion.
Go right ahead.
I move to authorize the Johnson County Mental Health Center to accept the Kansas 988 operational grant from the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services, KDADS, in the amount of $1,200,000 to provide 24-hour coverage for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline.
Allenbrand, second.
Oh. Go ahead.
Commissioner Fass made the motion. Commissioner Allenbrand seconded the motion to accept the grant as noted. Ms. Hanslick?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that this week, Commissioner Fast and I had the opportunity to visit the RSI Crisis Stabilization Center up in KCK. Thank you to Tim DeWeese for making those arrangements. And speaking for myself, it was very enlightening, because I don't know that everybody understands that we have this this program. It's really a collaboration between Johnson County Mental Health, Wyandotte Behavioral Health, and RADAC. It is 100% state-funded, and there are 3 units. Law enforcement can bring people to that facility 24 hours a day. They provide a triage. They have a sobering, 6 sobering beds. They have a crisis observation unit, which I think is 7 beds. I can't remember the exact number. And then there is a crisis stabilization unit where they can actually stay, reside there for a certain period of time, total of 21 beds. And the issue that they had talked about was, in order to use that service, it's all voluntary. It's 100% voluntary. So if someone is a danger to themselves or others and needs to be involuntarily committed, the problem then becomes there are not enough state beds at the state mental hospitals. And so it was very enlightening. I encourage all commissioners, I know the chairman visited a couple weeks ago. I'd encourage people to go visit there, especially as we're having a lot of conversations about how we're going to invest in the future of our mental health facilities.
All right, so, thank you. Any further questions? All right, if not, motion is before us. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Yes, I move, oh, yes, sorry.
Commissioner Myers.
Motion is before us.
I'm
Thank
ready
you.
to go.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. I'll just add to what Ms. Hanslick said. I asked Mike Bauer and Tim DeWeese to put information together for all of us to review about the number of programs that we have and the number of beds that are offered in support of those programs. So as that discussion goes forward, please refer to that information. There's more opportunities, I think, than what the general public and even some of us are aware of. So, next item.
Item number 13, consider approving an exception to competition and authorizing the Johnson County Mental Health Center to enter into a services agreement with Overflow Storytelling Lab, LLC, to provide a story campaign and community mobilization efforts for Phase 5 of the Number 0 Reasons Why campaign in an amount not to exceed $140,000 for the contract period ending December 31st, 2023, per Administrative Policy and Procedure Number 110.180.A.16.
Mr. Tanner, you're up again.
Tanner Fortney, Mental Health. This is an annual contract that we bring before you for our 0 Reasons Why campaign with Overflow Storytelling. I'll briefly recap the history. The program began in 2017, and at that particular time, the school districts in Johnson County were individually contracting with Overflow to provide that service. They eventually approached us because it was becoming unwieldy for 6 different school districts to try to do that, and they don't, of course, specialize in mental health and suicide prevention. So they'd approached us about taking over that contract, and so we did take on that contract. We do the management and the oversight. We do have some funding we provide, but the school districts do continue to pay their portion of funds that comes to us from ATF funding. And so that campaign's been very successful in the sense that we've had a lot of students go through that campaign, a lot of students stepping up that have helped to really keep that campaign alive and help to both build it and bring more awareness into school districts. So it's been a very successful campaign from that perspective, and we've continued to build upon this year after year. We're now moving into our 5th phase where we're continuing to add some additional services that we'll be doing. The good news, though, is the cost of $140,000 is not changing. That's the same as it was last year and the same the year before, but we are just continuing to look at different ways and different services and activities that students can participate in to both increase their awareness and bring community attention to this particular problem that we face. And so with me today is Shanna Burgess, our Director of Prevention and Communication, and she'll be here if you have specific questions you'd like to ask about the campaign itself.
Okay. Thank you. Questions of Mr. Tanner? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tanner, I think we all realize that there's a challenge, and as Commissioner Allenbrand talked about social media and the pressures that it has on the population generally, but maybe more specifically youth. I was wondering, though, how are we measuring success? Are we seeing, I understand people are participating, which is great, but are we seeing a leveling off or reduction in youth suicides and attempted suicides that are attributable to this effort or other efforts?
Yes, good question. So throughout the last several years, we actually did see a lowering, as you would say, in teen suicides throughout Johnson County. I don't have the number breakdown of teens for 2022 yet, so I'd have to look at that. But we had actually seen a reduction. Now, how much of that could I directly attribute to this campaign? That's a real hard question to answer because we have so many different suicide prevention efforts. There's others in the community, other groups that do that. So I think collectively, all of these efforts have really paid off. Now, what I can say in terms of just the efficacy of the programs, which I think is at least part of your question, Commissioner, is that there's generally three different types of I guess I would say, components to this type of program with it, especially when you're working with youth. Usually you have what's called a gatekeeping component, which is usually training of school staff to help be able to work with children and be able to understand and see the warning signs of this. The second component is curriculum-based education within the school districts. We participate in that as well. And the third is what we would refer to as screening for early identification and student suicide risk. So this really falls more, even though it's a voluntary campaign, and again, I can let Ms. Burgess talk more to you about that. A lot of it falls more into the curriculum-based, doing a lot of those vignettes, storytelling, helping students to understand the impacts of suicide and what it can do not just for them, but also their loved ones. But looking at the clinical research, I've reviewed personally a meta-analysis as well as approximately 27 different studies that have looked at these various components. And what the clinical research is actually showing is that they are seeing reductions in suicides and the effectiveness of these programs and helping to prevent that. And the component that they have found the greatest impact in is actually in curriculum-based education, which again is what this falls into. Now, there is variation in how curriculum is provided from state to state, school to school. There isn't a universal approach. But when you look at the various studies that have been out there, most of what we're doing is mirroring what those studies have shown. So I think we have a pretty good idea that the work that we're doing is successful and can be attributed to that reduction we've seen over the last few years in suicides.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Ms. Hanslick?
Yes, I appreciate Commissioner Ashcraft's question because I think that's it's very relevant, and this is not directed just to you, but I think in future it would be helpful to have some of that included in the briefing sheets if there's any kind of information about the outcomes or the effectiveness of a particular program. That would be helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Just a personal comment. I can say from my 40 years experience in the education field, I can tell you the importance of these types of programs. And there is no doubt in my mind that these programs save lives. How many? I don't know. Do they save lives? Absolutely.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item? All right, if not, is back for the commission. The motion is in order. Ms. Fast?
Yes, I move to approve an exception to competition and authorize the Johnson County Mental Health Center to enter into a service agreement with Overflow Storytelling Lab, LLC, to provide a story campaign and community mobilization efforts for Phase 5 at Zero Reasons Why campaign in amount not to exceed $140,000 for the contract period ending December 31st, 2023, per administrative policy and procedure 110-180-A, I mean not dash, let me say again, 110.180.A.16.
Hanslick, second.
Commissioner Fast made the motion. Commissioner Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the exception to competition and award the contract as noted in the amount stated. Any further questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor, motion carried. All right, next item, I believe that's number 14.
Item number 14, consider approving an agreement with Atmos Energy to relocate gas utilities necessary for the 199th Street Shoulder Safety and Structural Improvement Project between Clare Road and US 169 Highway at a cost not to exceed $678,685.72.
Mr. Sims.
Good afternoon, Ryan Sims with Public Works. So this utility agreement with Atmos is necessary to relocate approximately 1.5 miles of gas supply lines, service connections, and meters in advance of the road safety improvement project on 199th Street from Clare Road to 169 Highway, anticipated to begin construction later this spring. We have a city-county agreement with Spring Hill to participate financially in this project for right-of-way, utility, and construction costs, broken out by jurisdictional boundaries. The entirety of the gas facilities for this project does fall within the unincorporated area, so the county bears most of the cost for the relocation, about 87%. Atmos cost is the remaining 13% for this. If there are any questions at this time, I'd be glad to answer them.
Ms. O'Hara.
Just when you're ready, I do have a motion.
Okay, all right. Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sims, who sets this price?
So this price is provided by Atmos professional staff. They have professional engineers and technicians on staff that develop the relocation plans and the unit costs to provide the service.
Does it include any betterments or upgrades?
This is the cost to provide in-kind for the services.
Okay, and how do we verify that, or do we verify it?
So we verify the relocation plans themselves, make sure there aren't any conflicts with the future road improvements. We don't really verify their unit costs of the materials itself. We try to work as best we can to communicate what we need to move the facilities in advance of the construction.
Thank you.
Well, this is an important part of the project in upgrading this stretch of 199th Street and providing additional laneage. And, I have seen a couple of instances here in the last couple of weeks where vehicles, including automobiles, an automobile have had a tire go off the edge of the pavement, and that forces actions which can lead to accidents. So making these public improvements need to go forward. So this is important. Anyone present would like to speak to this item? All right, if not, Ms. O'Hara, you have a motion?
Thank you. Yes, just before I make the motion, Spring Hill has also passed a resolution banning truck traffic on their portion of this west of 169 Highway. Just for the record, want people to know that. All right. I move to approve an agreement with Atmos Energy to relocate gas utilities necessary for the 199th Street Shoulder Safety and Structural Improvement Project between Clare Road and US 169 Highway at a cost not to exceed $678,685.72.
Allenbrand, second.
O'Hara made the motion. Allenbrand seconded the motion to approve the contract as recommended in the amount as noted for the improvement of 199th Street from 169 to Clare Road. Any further questions, Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I agree with your summation. This is an important project. It needs to be done. I think what I struggle with is that we're at the mercy of Atmos, as any city is when these kind of changes have to be made, and when you're dealing with a monopoly that can set the prices that they want, it's just a personal frustration. And I don't have a solution, but I just offer that vent.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? The motion is before us. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
With reservations, yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Item number 15.
Consider authorizing a contract under construction inspection services contract RFP number 2019-061 for the data acquisition project with George Butler Associates at a cost not to exceed $296,764.75.
Mr. Sims.
Ryan Sims, Public Works. This contract for inspection services is Phase 2 of our asset management program. Phase 1, which was approved back in March of last year, included inspection of about 1,100 crossroad culverts and pipes in the unincorporated county network. This Phase 2, which I'm here today to present for, will include data acquisition for retaining walls, sidewalks, and guardrail structures in the unincorporated area, as well as pipes, culverts, and storm sewer located out at New Century Air Center. This Phase 2 will also include an analysis of available site distance at section line road intersections in the unincorporated area. These inspections and analysis are needed to maintain, replace, and improve the county's assets, as well as prioritize future projects in a cost-efficient manner. GBA is part of the county's on-call services for inspections, and they are the firm best suited with the staff and expertise needed for the inspections. They also have the most resources to devote to this project, including certified structural inspectors needed to inspect the retaining walls. If there are any questions at this time, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions of staff? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Symes, how do we obtain assurances that this is a competitive or the best price possible?
So with GBA, it's more of a thing where they already have their proprietary software to acquire data already meshes in with our existing data we have with the county. So it's an apples to apples thing. We're going to save a lot of hours with the data acquisition. We don't have to convert anything. You know, it's not an apples to oranges. It's more of an apples to apples type of situation. They also have a lot of existing LiDAR, existing ground data that we don't have to pull later on, which is going to save countless hours of our staff or another consultant to pick that up. They already have that, and they can include that as part of their data package to give to us.
So would you consider them a sole source provider?
No, I would not consider them a sole source. They are one of, I believe, 5 on-call consultants that we use for inspection services.
But in terms of pricing with the other 4, you've done some kind of analysis that substantiates that this is the best practice, the best price.
Yes. When we upfront, we get them on the on-call services. They provide their unit costs for hours, man hours, and services provided for each type of project.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Other questions? Ms. Allenbrand?
Mr. Chairman, when you're ready, I do have a motion.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item? If not, Commissioner Allenbrand, you have a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to authorize a contract under Construction Inspection Services, contract RFP number 2019-061 for the data acquisition project with George Butler Associates at a cost not to exceed $296,764.75.
Hanslick, second.
Allenbrand made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the contract with George Butler Associates as noted and recommended. Any further questions or comments? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I understand the project and the importance of this project, but I am not convinced that the cost-benefit analysis has been done to substantiate the selection of this vendor. I'm not saying that the vendor's not competent, and I'm not saying it's not the best price, but I don't see the argument, so my vote will reflect that concern.
Well, my vote will be in favor. I respect the expertise of our staff to make these kind of decisions, so thank you very much. Any other comments? If not, clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
No.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 6 votes in favor, 1 opposed, motion carried. Are there any other items on the action agenda?
No, sir.
All right, turning to reports and communications, Ms. Postoke Ferguson.
Chairman and Commissioners, good afternoon. It is afternoon now. I wanted to talk about the RHID, the Rural Housing Incentive District for Spring Hill. You may recall that I presented this in the manager's memo back in November when we had received the notice of public hearing. Based on questions raised by commissioners, Chairman Eilert requested that I provide further information, and there's more information in your packet. Also, I would like to turn it over to Chief Counsel Peg Trent to provide a summary of the information. Peg?
Ms. Trent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Peg Trent, Chief Counsel. As the county manager has indicated, this item was brought before you and noticed so that you were aware that a public hearing was to be held on the Wiswell Farms Rural Housing Incentive District. On December 8th, 2022, following that public hearing that was noticed, the governing body of the city of Spring Hill, thank you. Ordinance 2022, thank you, 32, establishing a rural housing incentive district and approving a plan for development, housing, and public facilities within that district. And so that is commonly known as the Wiswell Farms Rural Housing. So it's generally located, just so you remember, it's located east of Highway 169 between 191st Street and 199th Street within the city of Spring Hill. This information was emailed to all of the commissioners at the appropriate time. And pursuant to that ordinance that was adopted by the governing body of Spring Hill, it indicated that that ordinance would be null and void if within 30 days following that public hearing and of that ordinance, this commission determines that a resolution of the housing district would have an adverse effect on the county. So a meeting was held, and we were able to secure some additional information for your consideration relating to this district. Specifically, I wanted to highlight, and this was contained within the feasibility study that was previously provided you, but I just want to, in the context of whether the county was adversely affected by this type of TIF district, the proposed development includes 387 attainable price single-family homes and potentially 180 units of multifamily housing. The estimated impacts are based on a 5-year completion schedule starting in 2025, so it wouldn't start the incrementing till then, for the single-family home, and a 2-year completion schedule starting in 2027 for the multifamily housing. The district will defer ad valorem taxes of approximately $21.6 million within the district over a period of 18 years, which is less than what would be statutorily allowed. That was negotiated as part of that agreement with Spring Hill. To reimburse the developer, so this is a reimbursement to the developer for the cost of improvement within the boundaries of that district, including internal roads and those administrative costs of the city. This amount represents the cumulative new ad valorem revenue that would be captured by all taxing jurisdictions if the exact same development were to occur over a same time period, but without the district. At this point, the county base of taxes for that district, for the area that they are proposing, is approximately $2,453 per year, which includes the Parks and Rec and Library. So if we didn't have this incremented, this is what you're entitled to. And you're entitled to this even with the incremental, with the district. This ad valorem revenue amount will be constant for the term of this entire district agreement. The potential revenue from this project to the county, parks, and library for 18 years is estimated, meaning if this project goes in 2025 and 2027, $4.5 million. The county only, excluding parks and library, is $3.27 million. However, the revenue assumes that the same amount of development would occur over the same time period. With that, as a result of this project, keep in mind the downstream growth that is going to occur as a result of this development to the surrounding properties may increase. And I believe the county representatives would indicate that we do see what they result from the project, growth in those surrounding areas. The project also, just so you're aware, and it was contained within the feasibility, there intends to be Spring Hill to establish a benefit district for assessment of the district, so those individuals, to finance approximately $3.3 million of the $6 million total cost for the extension of Webster Road. So they have to extend Webster Road to this district. The remaining costs are directly paid through a state-based grant of approximately $2.7 million. So at this point, when you are looking at the monies and the funding, I wanted to make you aware the school district is also in the similar situation of where they have the ability to veto. They did have a meeting. They had a financial analysis conducted by their fiscal individuals and looking at the school funding, and they determined that there was, at this time, as a result of this, no adverse impact to the school district with the funding is a complete, they called it I guess, even or wash, what would occur. And at the end of 18 years, you may see growth of additional students. I recall a number of approximately 400 additional students. So at this point, when we look at the state statute, what is an adverse effect? You are very familiar with this with other types of TIF. There is no direction given to the county as to that. We have discussed fiscal impact, but there's other impacts. So at this point, without any further direction, with what we provided you in numbers, you will receive the same amount of taxes over the 18 years that you're receiving right now.
All right, thank you very much. I will just summarize that this is a program that's been authorized by the state legislature and the state of Kansas. The state of Kansas will also have a commitment, as I recall, about $2.7 billion
Correct.
To assist in paying for the infrastructure. And the unique part is that the homes that will be built, the homeowners will continue to pay property taxes at whatever level they are in the county and in the city of Spring Hill. That money will go to reimburse the developer for paying out of pocket for the infrastructure costs. And I think we're all aware that in most of our cities, the land cost or the lot cost for the homes are significantly impacted by the cost of the public infrastructure to support those homes. So as streets are built, whether it's sewers or utilities or what have you, the cost of that is applied toward the actual cost of the lot. So that is one benefit. The homeowners who will be paying the taxes, there's no abatement of the taxes that they will be paying, will go to reimburse that infrastructure cost. The schools, assuming that the homes are built out as presented, additional students will increase money from the state, the school plan, and I think that was a major focus of their interest. So, this is a unique plan. It's only been available for the last couple of years in Johnson County. Previously, counties of more than, 80,000?
Correct.
Could not participate. A couple of years ago, the legislation was changed and made it city-specific. And so I applaud the city of Spring Hill for taking this step. And as I recall, it was approved 5-0.
That's correct.
So, we have had a lot of discussions, a lot of comments from this board about the necessity of more affordable housing in Johnson County. And there have been some public funds committed to that. And this is an opportunity that I think we should approve, that we should provide support to Spring Hill for this effort. Questions? Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in support of this in our rural areas. And I also appreciate Spring Hill coming to the plate to get this done. It's important. I serve on a subcommittee, housing subcommittee, through the commission here, and the need for affordable housing, it's very much needed, and there's a shortage. And this is going to allow the citizens of Spring Hill and some of those citizens to come back to Spring Hill that couldn't maybe afford to live there. So I think this is very important. I do have a question while you're here. So when you're talking about the infrastructure, then you're going to be taking care of the roads around the development, so the infrastructure will be in as well on the roads? Who are you asking?
Is there someone from Spring Hill who can respond to that?
As they're coming forward, both the city administrator, Lane Massey, and bond counsel to the city of Spring Hill, Tyler Ellsworth with Kutak Rock is here, and Tyler's at the podium.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners.
Could you speak louder into the microphone?
Certainly. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to be here on the behalf of the City of Spring Hill. Commissioner Allen Brand, with respect to your question, the RHID tax revenues will go to fund an extension of Webster Road from 191st to 199th, and it will also be used to pay for the costs of internal streets in the single-family subdivision as well as associated infrastructure.
Thank you so much.
I think the important thing is that, this benefit district will allow costs of the infrastructure to be recovered over a period of time rather than to be assessed directly to the home buyer. And can you give us an approximate idea of the work you've done in regards to the approximate price of the single-family dwellings?
Yes, I can share the information that the developers team has shared with us. And really, as has already been noted today, the developer's stated goal with this development is to provide an attainably priced home. And so for a single-family home in Johnson County, and I can't tell you what the average price of a single-family home in Spring Hill or in Johnson County is today, it's probably in excess of $400,000.
Yes, that's right.
The developer's projections are that they're hoping to be able to offer these homes at a price of around $300,000 a home. There's a range from maybe $280,000 to $320,000, and it'll depend on market conditions and other factors, but their stated goal is to provide an attainable product here.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. O'Hara.
Thank you. Are there any guarantees as to restrictions on the developers as to a profit margin? Are they, in the documents that I've read, I do not see any stipulations that they cannot charge more than X number of dollars. And obviously, I'm from the industry. I understand the cost increase. And also, I want to point out that $320,000 house, if you are financing it and people that need attainable housing, they have very little to put down, and there's closing costs and et cetera, et cetera. So they're most likely going to have a very high percentage of that. Let's just say 100%. That payment is approximately $2,500 a month, which requires about $100,000 to $110,000 at a 42% ratio to debt. And this is not attainable. Attainable is not mentioned in the Rural Housing Initiative District. And also, I want to ask a question to our Chief Legal Counsel. We received numbers that indicated that this was going to cost, that the public investment in this was going to be $14 million. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner O'Hara, we initially received a feasibility study which did contain early on those numbers. However, it was revised and a new notice was provided and a new report as well.
And those dates the 14 million was October the 10th or October the 7th or 10th. And then the new ones was the new feasibility by Baker Tilly was November the 16th, one day before the public hearing. That then upped the public investment to 21 million. That is the date that I saw on the report.
The public hearing, I believe, occurred December 8th, the day of the ordinance.
Actually, it was the 17th, and then it was continued.
Regardless, the public hearing was held. That information was made available at that time. We have, for the purposes of this commission at this time, what procedurally occurred below at Spring Hill is not the business of the commission at this point. Looking at what you have before you, you have an ordinance 30 days from that public hearing for veto.
And I also want to just give some historical data. In 2017, the city of Spring Hill issued 145 building permits, 2018, 148, 2019, 128, 2020, 184, 2021, 284, and 2022 through November 30th, 195. I know that everyone and all of us wants to help to find an answer to attainable housing and affordable housing. But it's the interest rates. At 3%, which interest rates were at, a $325,000 house, the principal and interest would have been $1,300 plus, another problem. So it would have been about $1,800 total with the property taxes and insurance. It's the interest rates. That is what is impeding the affordability. And we have no guarantees that these lot prices are going to be within any. There's no guarantees. I mean, right from the documents, it states the governing body of the city does not expect to receive any contractual assurances from the developer guaranteeing a financial feasibility of specific projects within the district. There's no guarantees. And I'm from this industry. I understand all of this. And what you're doing is that you're saying we're going to be collecting the same amount of taxes, but you failed to say that we are going to have an increase in need of services. And on this dais this morning, we've already seen the cost. I mean, we're subsidizing the police protection in DeSoto. We're subsidizing the police protection in Edgerton. We will be subsidizing through county services, Parks and Rec, library, all of the other services that we provide in the county. Somebody else is going to have to accept the responsibility, and it's going to be the rest of the tax base. I just ask this commission to please consider having a special meeting. Let me get my wording here, sorry. I make a motion for a special meeting to be held prior to January 8th, 2023 for the BOCC to consider a resolution to veto the Wiswell Farms Rural Housing Incentive District due to the adverse effect to the county.
Well, respectfully, I will call that motion out of order. Staff has reviewed the impact and have come to the conclusion that there is no significant adverse impact to the county, which can be upheld. And I would say this, we have had many conversations from this dais about our desire to provide in the county attainable single-family homes. So we can support this action, or we can continue to talk about it. And I think our best effort is to support Spring Hill in this effort. Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have not seen the analysis that you're referring to that staff has completed. I would be very interested in that because one of the axioms that we've always talked about and I think tried to adhere to is, does growth pay for itself? And that's whether it's in stormwater or wastewater or any other program. Does it pay for itself? And I would submit, Mr. Chairman, that you are right. This effort may be unique, but I doubt if it will remain unique for long. I suspect that it will be an opportunity that many communities will avail themselves of. And I think that it deserves further conversation because as the school district did some kind of analysis, and I have not seen that either, but I think that is the appropriate process and protocol, and I would like to see that. And until I see that, I would have to say, Mr. Chairman, that I would agree with Commissioner O'Hare's motion, and I understand you've ruled it out of order, but I'd like to have some understanding from the parliamentarian that a motion at the dais that's been seconded, how is that
Mr.
ruled
Chair,
out of order?
first of all, the motion was made by Commissioner O'Hare, and I believe now you're doing a second. And that is not, there can be a motion at any point for, and it's being second for a vote to be called at this point. So just because it came in these comments, it can be considered. But I will correct and make sure, and maybe Commissioner Ashcraft, you're not aware, but in the packet under the manager's memo, I did include all of the PowerPoint from the school district that they went through their analysis. I also included all the talking points that were provided today to you verbally, along with memos that have been provided, I think, early November from my staff outlining these type of districts, rural incentive districts, and what was required for a veto. So I did include information to make sure you had that information. And at this point, if that is right now a motion on the floor, that would need to be, and it was seconded, it is proper, and it would call for a vote.
Okay. Well, I have ruled it out of order.
Okay.
So, and to your comment, I am sure there will be other cities who will look at this. I'm aware that Edgerton, who has been trying for years to expand attainable housing in their community, is probably interested in this approach. So I don't think there's any question there will be additional opportunities for us to review. So, Mr. Ashcraft.
Point of order to respond to the counselor. As a clarification, and maybe I misunderstood you, Mr. Chairman, I thought you had indicated that county staff had looked at the fiscal impact of this effort. I have not seen that. I have seen what the city of Spring Hill did, but what has county staff?
Well, I think it's a fairly easy response to that. The county, the police services are going to be provided by the city, not the county. The sewers will be provided by the city, not the county. And all of those city services will be provided by Spring Hill, not the county. And the county will continue to receive the $2,450 a year that we currently receive. For this project to be vetoed, okay, it goes away. The county will continue to receive $2,450 a year. This property is appraised as vacant, and it will continue to be vacant without this kind of project.
But, Mr. Chairman, the issue is the cost associated with this development and how it impacts the county, whether it be ambulance service or whether it's transit service or its impact on the demands for libraries or parks that these residents will be enjoying at the expense of other taxpayers. What is the impact on the county? And has that been analyzed in a fashion similar to what the school district did? They said it was a wash, and maybe it is a wash for us, but I have not seen that analysis.
Well, there is a park in this project which will be the responsibility of Spring Hill. So there is no park cost to the county. And the fire district will continue to receive its money, And in my conversations with MEDAC personnel, they see no real negative impact on this project. So that's my report. Ms. Fast.
Yes, one of the issues with, counties vetoing TIF districts is how adverse action is defined, and so no county has ever vetoed a TIF district. Is adverse action defined more in depth under this? I couldn't tell.
So Mr. Chairman, adverse effect is not defined, and it's not defined in TIFs. It's not defined in this type of district either. There are other communities that do have policies, such as Sedgwick, that outlines a set procedure. The staff goes through in making that and providing that information. We do not have a policy in Johnson County related to that. So the best that we are able to do, and as you said, you're not aware of any TIF district being in the state of Kansas. From my research, and I did reach out to bond counsel, we may know of 1 or 2 communities that have done it, but I would submit to it may not have been done properly under a resolution and findings and so forth. So the key is the findings. And you open yourself and expose the county if you aren't able to articulate how you've been adversely affected. And in this particular case, the legislature does not define that, but we have provided you today in your memo and in discussion points just to give you an idea of what would come forward.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. Hanslick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would be thrilled to see more of these proposals coming before the board. I've mentioned before that one of my frustrations is at the state level, especially through Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, these opportunities to take advantage of programs that support development of attainable housing are limited to the rural areas. And so for us in Johnson County to be able to take advantage of this is fantastic. We've talked about that currently, according to developers, really the only thing that is profitable for them to build are either very, very expensive homes, single-family homes, or multifamily projects. This is an opportunity for us to help that gap be met so that somewhat more attainable housing can be available. Is this going to answer and meet all of our housing needs in Johnson County? No, because these homes, as Commissioner O'Hara pointed out, they aren't affordable for everybody, but it's a step in the right direction. It's a step in expanding the spectrum of housing that we have in Johnson County in terms of price points. And we all know that the biggest problem in Johnson County right now is the lack of housing stock, period. Our appraiser talks about that all the time. This allows us to have that and to have something that's more attainable. I don't know what the average house I don't know what the average sales price is in Spring Hill, but I know it's close to $500,000, and so something between $280,000 and $325,000, I think, is something young families may be able to afford. Not all, but it's a step in the right direction, and I'm very supportive of this.
Any other questions? Ms. Allenbrand.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make a comment. Growing up in Johnson County, I've lived here all my life, and there was areas of Johnson County, they didn't call them TIFs back then, but we had developments that were put together. They weren't called TIFs, but I know my family could not have lived here with the cost now. And we look at the state, and they provide this benefit to our rural areas. And the cities have already studied this. They have a city council, elected mayor, and I feel that we need to support that. I'm in support of this. I think it's needed. I get frustrated because I could sit here all day long and mention different developments all over Johnson County that have been successful, brought in tax dollars, have helped support our fire. This is just greatly needed, and I will be 100% support of it.
All right. If there, Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry this is your last day because this will be the last time we get to debate this.
About it.
Well, we've debated similar items.
No, we
before,
have, and I appreciate you allowing a little bit of time on this. I did want to just offer a comment to Commissioner Hanslick, and Commissioner Hanslick, your previous statements, your intent is absolutely right, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. And the challenge I have, particularly with this new instrument, and while it's similar to other TIFs, it is new and it's got a different construct. It will help the developers, but what I don't see is the guarantee and the immediate linkage that really will help homeowners and the families of those homeowners. And that's the challenge I have with this. This has the allure of being an opportunity, but there is no mechanism in place to assure that, and that just troubles me.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Ms. O'Hara.
Yes, to the Chief Legal Counsel.
Pardon?
A question to the Chief Legal Counsel.
Yes. Okay.
So you have stated that according to our parliamentary rules that my motion was appropriate and that the second was appropriate. And the chairman has overruled that. So what, I don't understand. Was it actually a motion or wasn't it?
Well, I called it out of order. That was my judgment. And any time a majority of the commission can overrule the chair's judgment. Okay? So I don't hear any motion to overrule the chair's judgment.
So Chief Legal Counsel, is that true?
The rules, Mr. Chair, the rules, and Commissioner O'Hare, the rules of order do indicate that if you want to overrule the decision by the chair, there would need to be a motion to overrule it to move forward. So the chair is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much, staff. Thank you very much. Congratulations to the city of Spring Hill, and thank you for taking the initiative to bring this project forward to our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other reports?
Yes, I have two more items. The next item is the County Economic Research Institute, or the CERI report. The full report is attached in your packet. However, I'll do a few highlights. In October of 2022, the unemployment rate was 2.4% compared to 2.1% the previous year. Year-to-date, single-family home sales through October were 8,886 compared to 10,002 last year. This is an 11.3% decrease. Single-family building permits year-to-date through October issued were 1,497 compared to 1,965 of the previous year. This is a 24% decrease. Total retail sales for Johnson County year-to-date through September 2022 were $14.2 billion compared to $12.5 billion through the same time period last year. And this is a 14% increase. So, Chairman, I have one more item, and I'll see if there's any questions on the CERI report.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, the last item I have is a reminder for Chairman Eilert's public farewell reception to be held tomorrow, January 6th, at the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center at 4 o'clock. And Chairman, on behalf of county staff, we thank you for your service, your leadership, your support. Our community is much better from your service and leadership, and you will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there are no other reports. We'll turn to commission comments. Ms. Fast.
Yes, this morning, Church of the Resurrection had a breakfast bringing together both parties to have a conversation, local, city, and state, on their campaign to bring together good conversations on polar opposite issues. So it was just a really wonderful breakfast.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Allenbrad.
Mr. Chairman, can I go last?
Pardon?
Do you mind if I go last on my comments? Thank you.
Well, different things have happened this morning, so, Mr. Ashcraft.
That is in your authority to determine.
Okay, very good. Mr. Chairman, a few statistics before you leave. I did a little analysis.
What's my return on investment, by the way?
And, well, you'll find out. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I did a little ROI on you.
Oh, boy.
Comparing your 32 years, I believe it was 32 years in Overland Park. Was that correct? Or 4 years on council and 28 for mayor?
24 in mayor. Yeah,
Oh.
total of 28.
28, okay.
I think that's right.
Well, then your return on investment's even higher, because I did a comparison based on what I thought was 32, and Paul Lyons misled me, so you can offer feedback to him. But based on the role of the mayor in Overland Park and the number of meetings you had and the duration of the meetings, you spent about 3,840 hours in meetings. Now, you didn't have committee meetings. As mayor, you rose above that, and you didn't have the same challenges with the cows and study sessions that we have. So I compared that to your role here, and this is not all meetings, but you know, when you consider the PBC, regular meetings, agenda reviews, cow study sessions, and your favorite budget meetings, not to mention the numerous executive sessions that always seem to go much, much longer than many times planned. You actually spent more times in meeting in 16 years than you did in Overland Park in the 28 years that you served. So I wanted to tell you that some of us noticed that because many of those meetings I sat ducking your left hook on various items. But in all, there were, by my calculation, and I tried to include in today's, although this last motion, I'm not sure where to include it, there were 9,216 votes, and 8,294 of them were unanimous, so a little bit over 91%. And it was higher before I got on the commission. I'll give you that. So, Mr. Chairman, your return on investment has been magnificent, and I will offer you a little adult beverage to consume at your leisure. Don't show it in public. We might get arrested.
How about sharing it in that paper bag?
I'll leave that as a mystery.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Hanslick.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I don't want to elongate this meeting, but I don't know if I'm going to have another public opportunity to say what an incredible privilege it has been to work with you. You have supported me, guided me, taught me as a new commissioner, and you navigated us through the pandemic. And I cannot thank you enough. It's truly a highlight of my life that I was able to sit at this dais with you, and you will be I'm going to try not to cry, but you will be very much missed. And I hope that I can, even in a tiny bit, continue your legacy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Jan Eilert, thank you. The Eilert family, thank you. Chairman, thank you. And one of the things that hasn't been talked a lot about today, but it was insinuated in all the different comments that people made, but what I will miss and what you will be called on many times in the future, just so you understand, is that historical perspective. And you are just, I'd like to refer to you as the encyclopedia of Johnson County. And we will miss that knowledge and that experience, but I guarantee you we're going to call upon you in the future.
Well, thank you. Ms. O'Hara.
Yes, I wanted to bring up the property tax relief, low-income seniors and disabled vets. Karen Tyson, Senator Tyson sent this to me, that during the 2022 session there were some tax changes, and there is a freeze on property taxes for household incomes of $50,000 or below. Homeowner must be 65 years of age or older. The value of the home cannot be above $350,000. A veteran must be 50% or more disabled for the entire year. And so you pay your property taxes, but the increase, you apply to get that increase refunded to you. So it's not going to be a huge help, but it will be somewhat of a help. And I just want the public to be aware of that. Also, I'm still chasing down that $200,000 that's bouncing around in the fire district's budget. I'll continue to look at that. And also, coming from the development community and being in public service, it always has been a fact. Residential development does not pay for itself. And when you are subsidizing it 100%, except for 50% of the school tax, it definitely is not paying for itself. And I will continue to advocate that we have equal opportunity, that we help the homeowners instead of padding the pockets of developers. I just don't think that this board understands, because they just don't have the background. I have the background. I understand this. This is taking dollars from the poorest of the poor and putting it in the pockets of wealthy developers. And because, again, it is a well-known fact, residential development does not pay for itself. And I'm sorry that we're not going to reconsider this, because this rural housing initiative district wouldn't have died. It would have simply been sent back to Spring Hill. Maybe they would have done a better job. But it is what it is, and I just want to, let people know that there's a better way, and we need to get the help to the homeowners and not the developers.
Thank you very much for mentioning the information about the opportunities to have a refund on your property taxes. And I also want to commend Tom Franzen and his group for sending out those notices as the tax bills went out. So they were very well explained, and thank you very much for that. Monday the 9th at 9 a.m. in this room will be the swearing in of the recently elected. Monday morning, excuse me.
Some of us will be here.
January 9 at 9 a.m. And the swearing in will occur for those who have been reelected, and the chair-elect will occur at that time. And my official responsibility will be over at that point in time. And I just want to say thank you to all of those who spoke this morning. I had no idea that was going to happen. And I want to say a special thank you to our commission. We haven't always agreed, but I think we worked through to positive conclusions. And so thank you very much. And to our professional staff at Johnson County, led by Penny Post-Oak Ferguson, my goodness, we would not be the community we are without your assistance and your guidance. So thank you all very much. Ms. Allenbrand, you have a closing comment, I hope.
Yes, very quickly, I want to thank you for your leadership, your guidance in helping me in this position. And I just hope you don't change your phone number. So with that, I do have something for you from behalf of all the county commission up here. And then also, I'm going to have Linda Sater come up. I think there's going to be a gavel. So I would like to present you to you on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners here. And then
Chairman Eilert, on behalf of the board and the staff, we would like to present your gavel for all the
Oh, well, thank
years
you.
that you have provided to Johnson County government.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner.
And Jan, this isn't for you to use.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, I probably haven't said it enough times, but I appreciate the support that I received from my spouse and my family. Jan is a native of Johnson County, and it's probably one of the reasons we moved here in 1965. And
Probably.
I completed my last year of teaching, 65, 66, at Olathe East. Shawnee Mission East, Olathe East. My grandkids have gone to Olathe East. So anyway, yeah, it's been a great community, and I appreciate the privilege that the voters of Johnson County and Overland Park had given me to participate in local government over the years. Thank you all very much for your support. And with that, we are adjourned from our regular agenda. We have about 3 or 4 items on agenda review, and then we're adjourned for the day. So thank you all very much. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to check this out.